Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. I am so excited for this guest today. He is a friend. I actually invested in his company, but the most interesting part for you is that he came from nothing, came from India all the way to the US and built not one company, but two companies, sold one for $250 million, which is crazy, and then is building another one that I think is going to be worth even more than the first. He shares what he would do if he was going to build from scratch today. He shared how he can tell the difference between A and B players. He shared what it takes to be young and hungry today and have the kind of success that he has. And he also shares a lot of takes on what happens once you make a ton of money. Also, there's some fun little stories in there about everybody from Mark Cuban to Naval Ravikant to the biggest names in Silicon Valley. And so if you are building something today, you are going to want to listen to this. And it is without further ado, I give you Ankur Nagpal, the CEO and founder of Carry and former founder of Teachable. Well, now this office is too small. I was trying not to build a big people company again, but I failed.
Yeah.
So
how big is the team right now?
I don't know, 35 full-time-ish.
Yeah, it's at least for me, I would say up to about 50 was really fun.
Yeah.
When it got to 100, it started feeling less fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest one I've ever done is like 175, 180.
Yeah.
And but you know what? They were really highly paid finance people.
Yeah.
It's honestly easier. Like I just didn't have half the things that I have now in this business.
In what sense? Like
it's perfect incentive alignment.
Yeah.
So like, you need a small legal team, a small compliance team, but all of your salespeople are highly paid and incentive aligned.
Yeah.
All of your portfolio managers are incentive aligned and highly paid.
Yeah.
And so it's like very easy. I mean, we had a quant system that was like, if you hit these, you're fired.
Yeah.
So everybody knew.
It was, you're not like having long one-on-ones and how everyone is feeling. And
God bless me.
Yeah.
I was telling Kate and Mark, our new president, that I want you to meet him. You'd like him. But I'm like, these creatives, they have so many feelings.
Yeah.
One cried in my office the other day, and I was like, I've never fucking seen this before. Yeah. Have you ever had somebody cry at a meeting with you?
So my last company, by the end, like Teachable, it became very hard to manage because, I mean, it was also around COVID and just the entire company, people forgot that we were there to make money and grow a business. And it was, things got a little bit out there. Like I remember we would people would get all these aggressive questions on like the snacks in the kitchen not being up to like people were like, how do you feel if we unionize? And it's like, you're not working in a coal mine. Like what do you want? Like better yogurt? Like it's just, there was a lot of that.
Where were you based?
Brooklyn, right? So we were the stereotypical like Brooklyn office in 2020. So you can figure out.
God bless.
This time around, even though we're a Brooklyn office, been very careful in who we hire.
Yeah.
So it's not been like that.
No, it's smart. Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, media.
But a lot of founders didn't realize that would happen, right? Like when we started the company 2013, 2014, it was a different time.
Yeah, that was not the case. No, we've come full circle. I mean, even now in media, I think the sad part is that people don't realize when they want those things is the first kiss of death.
Yeah.
And so, they think that it sounds good and then they don't realize that it leads to lack of profitability, which leads to people getting fired, which leads to like worse working conditions.
We had like crazy people. Like our Slack would be like someone would post capitalism as a new colonialism. It's like, dude, like Jesus Christ, like you don't, things that are like really like, yeah, like you're not being oppressed. It's fine.
Oh, I did get somebody say to me the other day that, what's wrong with California is capitalism. And I was like, like, wait a second, what?
So this time around, I mean, we've made sure that everyone who wants to work really wants to play for a team that wins, right? And that is important to them. And because for a lot of people, they don't care, like they used to not care if the company did well or not. And this time we fixed that.
How do you figure out if somebody wants to win or not?
I think you talk, like I think in the interview process, you spend time finding out what motivates them and why they're there. And also we are unapologetically like, hey, we're here to build a very large, successful company. Last time, I think we overplayed the mission side because, like, again, mission is important, but we still wanted people who are primarily there to win. But last time we're like, hey, education is really important. But then we ended up getting a lot of ex-teachers and who struggled when things got hard.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is your last Teachable sold for $250 million. Yeah. Did you think when you started your business that it would ever sell for $250
No,
million?
no one does, right? Yeah, no one does. It's an insane amount of money, and at every step, though, it was just like focused on the next milestone. Um, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to build a very large and successful business one day, but I didn't think if that was $50 million or $100 million or $1 billion. Um, but no.
When you started, though, like you didn't make a ton of money at first, right? What's the least amount of money you've ever made in a year?
Well, the first year I didn't really pay myself anything, so I didn't make any money while running Teachable. And
How'd you live?
my first salary was $70,000. So I was fortunate in that when I moved to America, I didn't really have much. But while I was in college, I started earning money with a bunch of like side businesses. And
Hmm.
that helped me make enough money that in my early 20s, I was living on my savings.
Interesting. What were your side businesses in
So I
college?
built Facebook apps. So this was back in the day when, you could send people gifts and stuff on Facebook. And it was crazy. It started my freshman summer. And at the end of my freshman summer, I was making like $20 a day, but all the way scaled to 50 grand a day and making $1 million before I was 21.
What were those, like the Disney princess quizzes?
Very similar. So we had all kinds. We had like how good a answer this question, answer this quiz, and you'll find out how good a lover are you. And people would like repeatedly take the quiz again and again till they got the results they wanted, and then they would post it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was 3 years of that, but it was just all kinds of like dumb things. But it really teaches you viral marketing and growth at a very early age. Like at our peak, we had more traffic than LinkedIn, Yelp, about the same as New York Times. We had like I think like 4 or 5 million teenagers basically using it every single day.
Get out.
Yeah.
Did you like how did you come up with that?
So started after my freshman summer when they launched the Facebook platform, and at first there were silly apps that would make $10 a day, $20 a day, but it was a crazy time because you could literally reach millions of people in 24 hours. It was the first time that you could go viral or whatever. And it was just years of experimentation and finding things that worked.
Yeah. So you were a bunch of nerds. Where'd you go to school?
Berkeley.
So Berkeley.
Yeah.
So you're just eating granola,
It was a bunch of
nerding out on coding,
Yep.
and throwing up lover apps.
I was very disappointed because I just moved to America to college, and it sounds really dumb, but all I knew of the US at the time was movies. So I was expecting American Pie, but instead I got like Berkeley, California. So
You're like, they don't shave armpits.
yeah, I was like, this is not the vibe. This is not what I thought it would be like.
That's wild because you're from where originally?
I'm originally from India, but I grew up in Oman in the Middle East. So my first day in the US was Berkeley, and I remember it was me and two other kids in our entire dorm that even drank alcohol. And that seemed crazy because I was expecting the stereotypical frat party American college experience, but did not get that.
How did you pick Berkeley?
It was the best school I got into. I got rejected from every Ivy League school, and it was. I wish I could say that it was some sort of like unbounding loyalty or whatever. But as an international student, you don't visit colleges or anything, right? Like you literally apply to a bunch of places and you go into any place that is like best ranked or whatever.
Interesting. Did you come from money?
No, my parents were middle class. Probably by the time I went to college, like they had spent most of their adult life saving to send me to college. So there was a lot of responsibility that came with that. My dad also always wanted to start a business, but it never felt financially responsible of him to. So I had a job. I mean, we were comfortable, but definitely middle class.
Do you buy your parents stuff now?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the nicest thing of this whole process.
What's the coolest thing you've ever bought your parents?
Honestly, we just go on really nice vacations all the time. And I was actually thinking, in some ways, it's nice that we didn't come from a lot of money because I have friends who are rich, and even though they've done well, when they take their parents on vacation, they just pay for the same experiences their parents always had. But for me, like now we can stay in nicer places than they have ever experienced. I get to see them experience all these things for the first time ever. So that part's really cool.
What's your favorite one you've ever done?
So I was just saying in December, my parents have never been to South America. They wanted to like see as much of the continent as possible in 3 weeks. So it's incredible. We went to Patagonia on the Argentinian side and the Chilean side and the Atacama Desert in northern Chile, drove to Bolivia, saw the salt flats, flew to Peru, Machu Picchu. Pretty incredible 3 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
By the way, Atacama is amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like 3 worlds.
It's the stars are, I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's sick. I would totally go back there. Okay. So built this huge business, didn't come from a ton. What's the most amount of money you've ever made in a year? What was your killerest year?
At Teachable, it was just the exit year, because when you're running a startup, I'll tell you my entire salary history. Like 6 months of nothing, then $70,000 a year. Then I think it was 105, then 120, and then 150. And once you hit $150,000, at that point, it's, I was still single, no dependents, living in New York City. You're not balling out, but it was enough that I was focused on the business.
Yeah.
And then you sell the business and make, basically infinite money.
Infinite money.
Yeah.
Do you ever say how much you sold the business for? You say 250 million, right?
I'm supposed to say I think this one where to say it's a reported 250, because at one point the acquirer didn't want to, but yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And how much of the business did you own at that time?
Half.
Dang.
Yeah.
So that's pretty infinite money.
It's pretty much infinite money. Half of it was cash, half of it was stock. But again, the way I look at it is there's nothing I want that I can't have. And at this point, if I make more money, it's for the love of the game versus like what I could do with the money.
What do you mean when you say it's for the love of the game? Like, why keep going after you've made $100 million?
It's my sport. Like, it's like if someone is a great tennis player or whatever, like, they're not going to retire at 31 or 32. They want to do this for another 5 years, 10 years. It's a thing that, like, it gives me joy. Very competitive person, and it's my arena and place to compete.
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah.
I was watching you at the dinner when everybody was kind of, telling you, like, tell me about what's really going on there. I don't believe it. So you now have built how many companies?
Meaningful companies too, but in college, we never built any enterprise value with this business, but, straight up made cash.
Yeah.
So
it was just a cash flowing profitable business from day one, basically.
The lifetime of a lot of these applications was 30 to 60 days. But again, our peak days were 50 grand a day, which at 20 years old was insane. Like, even if you had 10 or 20 good days, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rad at any age. What's also crazy is, like, I feel like because we're in Twitter or X or whatever you call it, you start to get this warped worldview where everybody all of a sudden is making 7 figures every weekend. And anything that's less than that is like small or not interesting. And I think one of the cool parts about the company you're building now is, like, that's not the case. You're, like, very much for the small business owner, which is why I invested, obviously.
I think we saw a lot of it firsthand running Teachable, where a lot of people were first-time entrepreneurs making money for the first time. Yeah. So I was like, how can we almost continue that journey where we help them with the next part of their life, which is actually taking their earnings and building wealth?
Yeah. Wait, you know what I want to talk about? Didn't you send me back in the day, didn't you fundraise for this company off of a Notion document?
Yeah.
That was a sick Notion document. Yeah. Have you ever shared that?
I'm sure I've probably shared publicly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to find out. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. But you basically, everybody thinks it's really hard to get strangers money. Mm-hmm. You did it a really weird way. Talk to us about how you got other people to give you cash.
Yeah. So actually, if you go back right before that, when I fundraised for my fund, I raised about $70 million on Twitter DMs with, I want to say, like, maybe under 5 actual meetings.
What was in the DM?
It was lots straight of feed pics. It was, lots of feed pics. Mm-hmm. Subscribe to my OnlyFans. Fund this. You get free lifetime access. No, it was a Notion doc. Granted, the good thing is 2 big things were happening for me. 1, I had a track record. Fund 1 was doing well.
Yeah.
And 2, it was the best time in human history to raise capital, right? 0 interest rates and stuff. But yeah, I raised money from 200 LPs, including like Tiger Global was my biggest investor. I raised money from like 10 other venture firms and 50 partners from venture firms, all just by DMing people.
That's wild. And what was in the Notion doc? Because I think this is like one of the things when everybody always asks me, how much money do you have to buy a business? How much money do you have to start a business? And my answer is 0.
Yeah.
Because it's actually never a lack of money. It's a lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. But that sounds like a rich person thing to say.
Yeah.
Until you realize how to get other people's capital. So like if somebody was asking you, like, Ankur, right now, I need to get rich people's money in order to build this thing, what would you tell them?
I think you have to, for what worked for me was I had real fucking skin in the game. Mm. So what most people don't understand is they look at a venture fund. Venture funds charge 2 and 20, right? Which is 2% management fee or 20% carry, which is the take of profits. What people don't understand is it's actually closer to 20 and 20. It's one of the best kept secrets because venture funds charge those fees for 10 years.
Yep.
So if you raise $100 million, the investor makes 20 million bucks, maybe even 25, regardless of how the fund does. What I did with my fund is I took zero management fees, which was absurd for a fund of that size, and a quarter of all the capital was mine. So yes, the notion doc is important. Yes, like the mechanism is important. But end of the day, people saw I had real skin in the game, that it became much easier for them to say yes.
Yeah. And I think if somebody wasn't you with your background, they would just decrease the fees. They'd just say, hey, instead of everybody else wants this much money, I'm going to take half of that.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to actually take no management fee, and I'm only going to participate in the upside. If you make money, I make money. If you don't make money, I don't make money.
And what people don't realize, to be an investor, it's actually not that hard to build a track record because you could invest $1,000 checks. Like a lot of people think, oh, I need to be, a millionaire or make tens of millions of dollars to invest. But I tell a lot of people, if you want to put $20,000 or $30,000, you could get started. Just make sure you do 20 deals because it takes a while to learn how this game works. And it is a game of numbers.
Totally. I think your first 50K, you kind of got to assume you're going to lose 49,000 of it.
But one of them could return 100x and the math works out.
Yeah. And that's also the interesting part. A lot of times, so we're on our second fund. And I remember when I was first starting out, I used to think, well, I just want to get a little bit in a bunch of deals. Then I think one of your deals, I think it was this company, was too full. And you were like, yeah, you can come in for like 10K. And I was like, Ankur, no fucking way. Yeah. Give me more money, which really means let me invest more money in you. Otherwise, I don't want to do the deal. And I think that's another thing that people don't realize is that there's so much money that the wealthy have that they actually fight over who can give good entrepreneurs more money. I never knew that when I was young.
It's a stagger. Like if you make 10 million, if you have a net worth of $10 million, you are not in the top 1% of households. It's crazy. You're like top 1.5%, but you're on the top 1% with a $10 million net worth. It is completely absurd.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I'd be curious your take is like, also the more money you have, not really, like the less pain you really want to tolerate. And so like money is like a risk trade-off with pain. And so they want young people who are hungry and willing to tolerate pain for them. And if they're competent, they'll give you cash.
100%. And I think for a lot of people, especially when they get to a certain amount of wealth, it also has they care about the other things. It's like, is it a good narrative? Is it a good story? Is it something I want to tell my friends about? And also then the actual dollar amount becomes less important because they'd rather do fewer, bigger things, easier to keep track of versus just like doing little pieces of everything.
Yeah, that's a good move. What would I have to do to pitch you? Like if I was young and hungry and I wanted you to give me money?
Yeah. So for me, a surprising amount of companies I've invested in have been cold DMs. I think, I don't know about you, but for me, email is dead as a channel. It's just impossible. It's impossible.
I also assume it's spam immediately.
It's impossible to keep track of. I've given up.
So if I am going to get Ankur to give me some of his 100 million, I'm going to DM you on Twitter.
I've honestly been DM'd on Instagram. LinkedIn's a little harder, but it doesn't even have to be Twitter. Just some place where I will someday see a message.
Interesting.
And even then, I rarely have invested the first time around. But I think people see progress. So if I see someone either repeatedly DMing or having improved substantially every single time, I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. What do you think the percentage of people are that ever follow up with you to get money?
With good pitches, very low. There's a lot of like automated cold outreach type stuff that is terrible. And those people follow up and that's just straight, you're just getting blocked. But I think, I forgot the data, but like I think the first 7 emails you send or something, the chances of getting a response are the same, which means you should send 7 emails because if you have a 5% chance, you'll have a 5% chance even the 7th time you send a message, which is staggering.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That is a life hack.
Yeah.
Because that basically means, you can hit somebody up 7 times. They probably don't even see the first go round. And at some point, there's some switch that flips, I think, with people who were entrepreneurs that are like, oh, this kid's a little psychopath too.
Yeah.
But I'm at least going to respond to them and be like, game, recognize this game.
The switch flips and there's just dumb luck and serendipity.
Mm.
Very often I will respond to something because I was on the screen already when like it just being the right place, the right time. So sometimes many shots on goal is helpful because you happen to catch someone at the right time or right place or whatever.
Yeah. The other interesting part I'm always shocked by is how few people keep going after the target that they really want.
Hmm.
It's like they'll send you one message. If you don't respond, they'll think it's embarrassing to send two. And so they'll just never hit you up again.
No, I think being persistent pays off so much. I mean, and I still remember okay, now people will respond to me, but even when I was 18, 19 years old, every time I emailed Mark Cuban, he replied. It's crazy. Yeah.
He is known for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It was wild. I was like, oh, I could email him and he'll just reply to me.
Dude, Mark Cuban also, guy's off the rails slightly now with love, Mark.
Yeah.
But on Instagram, I posted something basically saying it was about, remember when they were trying to restrict prices under the last administration?
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's a good thing to have price capping.
Yeah.
And I was like, I spent a lot of time in Latin America.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good thing. Here's my rationale. And I used a friend of mine's on Twitter to explain it in third person. And Mark commented on my Instagram post and was like, no, this is not right. And if you'd like me to explain it to you so you can understand, I'm happy to DM me. I know. But then I went into the DMs and I was like, saw your thing. I was like, does it ever work when you speak like that to someone?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I'm sorry, that was slightly contentious.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's not going to get anybody to change their mind. But then he's come back around. He's, just you can't keep a guy down.
He's done. I don't think anyone has timed an exit as well as he did. He sold a company that did very little for $5 billion or whatever back in the late 90s, or a time when $5 billion was a lot more than it is today.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's actually, he did a pretty good exit from the Mavericks too. Because didn't he exit and sell it to Adelstein or whoever? Yeah. Adelson. And then, it's fascinating. Okay, well, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, why did you choose? I can't remember your origin story. What was the pain point that made you choose to build Teachable?
Mm-hmm. So I'd moved to America, spent all this time building Facebook apps, scaled that business. Mm-hmm. And honestly, then I hit 2 years of what in retrospect is sort of an entrepreneurial rut where I probably tried 10 or 15 different businesses and nothing quite took off. And the journey you have as an entrepreneur is you don't even realize it's not taking off. You try a thing, you always get a little bit of feedback. Nothing is that exciting, but then you have a new idea and you're pulled into it, right? So this happened for about 2 years. During that period, I started teaching a little bit on Udemy. I taught in-person classes at General Assembly and built the first version of Teachable as a side project. But the difference with this side project is we just saw market pull from day one.
What does that feel like? Because I think somebody who's never felt it, they don't even know what it feels like to have something that works versus doesn't.
So, and the funny thing is, because I kept asking myself, is this working? Is it not working? But the biggest thing is the first month we processed maybe $3,000 in course sales. But every single month after that, we processed a little bit more until 8 or 9 months in, we were doing $40,000, $50,000 a month in course sales across, I want to say 15, 20 creators. And I was like, wow, there may be a real business here. And then I went to Silicon Valley, raised venture round and decided, okay, this is a company.
Could you ever have done that in India?
I think now the world has changed quite a bit where India has now become a pretty good place for entrepreneurship and startups because it's such a large market size. But the thing I appreciated the most about Silicon Valley is it takes young people seriously in a way that most of the world doesn't.
That's a great line. What do you mean by that?
So when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, I was in college. I had the chance to meet, Mark Andreessen, Naval Ravikant, all these people that were iconic and I looked up to, and they all took me very seriously, almost as a peer. What are you going to build? This sounds so great. Contrast that with when I went to India and I tried to meet with the CEO of a couple of smaller companies who would condescendingly ask where my parents were, right? It's such a different attitude. And I think San Francisco and Silicon Valley knows that young people have historically done incredible things. So young people are taken very seriously.
Yeah, it's a good point because you're kind of seeing it, whether people like this administration or not, but how the old infrastructure of government is looking at young people coming in with disdain. They're like, this 20-year-old, this 21-year-old. And I think there's no longer this barrier between ability to execute and age. In fact, I mean, the speed at which I see young people able to force function
Yeah.
moves with technology
Yeah.
means that we're getting slightly more obsolete the older we get.
Also, what you realize is young people typically tend to have so much more time, right?
Mm.
Like they're very time rich. And as a result, can go so much deeper into a lot of things. Like again, imagine if we get to a world where the cost of building something just comes down to how much time you have to play with the thing to build it. It's advantage young people. I mean, you just have so much more time. And that's what I mean when people say Silicon Valley is an idea versus a place. But the idea of Silicon Valley was always, 18, 19, 20-year-olds are going to do amazing things. So listen to them, let them do their thing.
Yeah. And they have the best risk reward trade off ever, which is a future appearance of time because they're young and simultaneously no real risks because they don't have anything yet.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone, I always tell people if you're 18, 19, or 20, you're in a golden window where a lot more people will be willing to meet with you because of your promise and your potential. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think it was easier for me to meet with a lot of iconic Silicon Valley people because I was 18 or 19. So I could be introduced to someone with a bright future. 28, I mean, you're still young, but you're not like, oh, this crazy young person with a bright future.
Were you like a little genius?
I think it was because of the Facebook applications that I'd built a business that was doing well. Growing up in high school and stuff, I was always smart, but I was pretty rebellious. So my grades were never very good.
Mm.
I wanted to play cricket internationally, so sport was more important to me. I was always smart, but I was barely top 20% of my class, which wasn't that good.
Interesting. And then today, you're building a brand new company. Why did you choose this one?
So it was while selling my last business. And again, as an immigrant, I know nothing about the tax code, nothing about how money works, personal finance. I wasn't investing, I was doing nothing. But I realized how it's smart lawyers and accountants, how much opportunity there is in our tax code. And there's no easy way of accessing it.
Yep.
So that was a little bit of a light bulb moment that I was like, if there was an easy way to productize all these tax savings, the tax code, that would be kind of a fun business to build. It's valuable to people. I also I've always loved, if there's a system, how can you be smart about it? How can you hack the system, break the system, whatever?
Mm.
And this felt like a challenge that way. Like here's a system with a bunch of rules, but there's loopholes. How do you actually help people take advantage of these loopholes? So it was a fun kind of business to work on.
How big is the business now?
So we're a little bit over 2 million in annualized revenue. We custody a little bit over $100 million in customer assets. Which is good. We're a couple of years in, and part of me as a founder is like, I wish we were 10 times bigger. But the nature of the space we're in is people trust us with their retirement dollars, and as a result, we are regulated as we should be. And there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to running these kinds of businesses that you have to sort of set up the right infrastructure.
Yeah.
We're trying to long term compete with Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, and these companies that are anywhere from 40 to 100 years old.
Yeah.
And we're fine if it takes a little bit longer.
Did you have to pay a lot of money for that website name, your domain name?
Carry.com, yes. I signed very strict paperwork allowing me to never talk about how much, but it was quite significant.
Why do they always want you guys to never say how much people pay for one word domains? Is it just like one conglomerate that owns all these and then they say don't tell anybody?
I think the biggest reason is there's no objective way of valuing a domain, right? Because it's such an illiquid market that there's not that many buyers and not that many sellers, but the sellers are pretty smart. They're happy to wait almost an infinite amount of time. Like, for instance, someone revealed they paid $2 million for friend.com, which is insane. We didn't pay anywhere near that much. And
I was going to guess 7 figures, but I'm okay. We won't tell our friends on the internet. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to get you sued in the portfolio company we invested in.
Exactly.
That's why. Yeah. Well, I think, and you just get killed on the internet. Remember when Nick and Sean Purry put somewhere, and then I think they only paid like $400K for it. Not only that is
a lot of money. Yeah.
400K is a lot of money for somewhere.com, and then they just got massacred.
I will say that we have made a very strong ROI already.
Yeah.
Because we deal with people's dollars. So trust is really important.
Mhm.
And a domain is a way of shortcutting that trust.
Yeah. Do you think yours is better than contrarianthinking.co?
I think we're about the same, roughly equivalent.
I can probably sell mine for 2 million too. I'm actually so bad at branding. It's almost laughable. Like, can you spell how
So
many
here's
vowels?
why that could be a good thing for a lot of people, in
Mm.
that I think too many people worry about it too soon.
Uh.
Like, again, when we started Teachable, the company was called Fedora, which is an awful name. Domain name use fedora.com. But guess what? We spent no time on it. We got to market faster. We got real customers faster.
Yeah.
You can fix brand later on. People don't realize that. Like,
Yeah.
you can fix brand a year in, 2 years in. At any given point, like even now, we're a little bit over 2 years in. But 10 years from now, almost all of our customers 10 years from now are in our future, right? So that was the sort of attitude that
That's
you hold
interesting.
on a lot to what you already have. But the majority of your customers in 10 years, you've not met yet. They're in your future. What you have now is a tiny, tiny percentage of them.
That's a great point because, I mean, part of the reason so many people, I think, never become entrepreneurs or get real revenue in their business is they have this whole story about what it takes. It's like, I need a website and then an LLC and then insurance. I mean, I see it on my YouTube comments all the time. It's like, you missed 12 steps. It's like, nobody
Yeah.
does all 12 steps in a row. You just start and you go.
Even like, again, our business helps people save money on taxes. The number of times I have to tell people you don't have a tax problem, you need to make more money, right? Like, your problem right now is not taxes. You're making $30,000 a year. Great. It's a great start. Just doing it is important. Don't try and save taxes on 30 grand. Think about how you can 10x your business. And then we'll talk about saving money on taxes.
Yeah, well, because the thing with Carrie that I think is unique is it's really focused on businesses and small businesses. And so basically, if you ever run a small business, taxes are the biggest pain in the ass. And you're always getting these, different notices from all over the place. And then your taxes will materially differ depending on who you get advice from. And so it's often not a how, it's a who, and the who can totally fuck you. And so the cool part about the software, I'm like sipping my own Kool-Aid here, but is that you have standardization.
Yeah. And the US tax code, when you look at it, I think you can tell a lot about what a country stands for, what it incentivizes by looking at its tax code. And the US tax code is written in favor of business owners, which I think is great. Like, the country wants to incentivize the creation of business. So it's the challenge we have is how do we productize that so people can take advantage of all of that?
Yeah.
It's like, taxes are not why people become business owners, but it's just one other perk, which is why when you look at, the wealthiest people in the country, not only are they typically business owners, they're also paying taxes at a much lower rate than regular salaried employees.
Yeah. If you weren't going to run this business, what's the other business that you're like, God, that's a cool opportunity right now?
I want to buy a cricket team. I mean, honestly, that's not a
it's the
not a
richest
phenomenal
person thing you've ever said.
That is not a. It's partially rich person. It's partially for my failed athletic dreams, right? It's like, if you can't do the thing yourself, like, at least buy the business that does the thing.
I like that. I think that's actually, isn't that what, I mean, one of my favorite guys is Wayne Huizinga, the guy who started Waste Management. And that was it. He's like, drove trash trucks, owned trash trucks, played in trash until he owned 3 baseball teams and also dated
There's
models.
a non-insignificant number of people, I think, who have been very successful in business who would give it all up for, like, their failed sports dreams.
Are you one of them?
Probably. Like, it's as I'm getting older, that trade-off is getting harder, because now I'd be at close to my professional sports retirement age. So maybe not. But yeah, there were times, like a few years ago, I was like, would I give it all up to be, like, really good at cricket, play in a large stadium, hear the fans chant your name? Yeah, probably.
But then you'd come to the US and nobody would know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is a little bit of a
you got to pick like football or something, or like international football.
There's 0 brown people in any major American sport, which is insane.
Is that true?
I think there's a half Indian dude in the NHL. That's about as close.
Well,
I think we have no one in the NBA, the NFL, and MLB.
That's wild, because you should. Your population.
We're killing it. Spelling bee,
dude,
you're not competing with
you
us.
are dominant. And procreation.
Yeah.
You guys figured out procreation. You like
and
it.
Being CEOs.
Yeah. It's actually really cool watching the growth. I mean, because it's interesting. Like, different demographics do have these natural tendencies towards entrepreneurship. And India's huge at it. I mean, in a in a force multiplier way. Like we have a lot of
Yep.
Latin American entrepreneurs, but we have nowhere near the percentage who get
100%.
the scale that. Why is
I
that?
also think it's exacerbated in immigration patterns because the enterprising Indian people are the ones who came here. So it is much stronger in the US. Like a lot of immigration in the US were people who came and bought small businesses.
Yeah.
Like
Is it just really hard to get here from India? And so the people who get here, you're like, that's the cream of the crop.
Like, for instance, like there's a lot of Gujarati people here. And I was reading it's staggering. I think like half of all small motels are owned by them. And they're all like, one extended family or something.
Yeah. I remember Twitter not liking it, but I was thinking that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really, and I think that's also one of the things that I think America stands for, or at least used to stand for, maybe still does or whatever. Is it becomes this magnet where if you are a person that wants to go do a thing and build a thing, you move here. Which is why for my dad, it was very clear that I would do better in a country like America, and I think it's important we maintain that.
I totally agree. It's like half the point of everything we do. I mean, I continue to be blown away that only 6% of Americans own businesses. That number to me just like doesn't make sense in my head.
I bet that doesn't account for the one-person business.
Because it counts for the one-person business, but it doesn't account for non-revenue producing businesses.
Okay.
Because LLC creation, more than I do. There's a shit ton of those.
Yeah.
But those are just incorporated businesses that never actually are realized. I mean, we could somebody will tell me on the internet if I'm a liar.
Because the numbers I looked at was more if you include all kinds of self-employment income.
The highest I've seen is 11%. What was the highest you saw?
I saw something higher, but the denominator, but it also depends. Is the denominator people that are eligible to start a business? Are we excluding, 9-year-olds and, stuff like that as well?
Yeah. And what is the category of business?
Yeah.
I guess as long as anyway, we don't have to get too wonky, but if you measure it the same way across all countries and then see which ones have the highest. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some cool things you do at your company, Carrie. For instance, I saw this tweet that I thought was brilliant about how you do vacation policy to keep high-level people, but make them stay in office the rest of the year.
Yeah. So we're in the office every day of the year. I'm not strict about it. Like if someone comes in 4 times a week or whatever, it's fine. But the default expectation is we're in the office every single day. But we're remote for 1 month. And partially it's because for anyone in New York, winter in New York can be soul crushing. So we're remote in February, in the office 11 months of the year, which I think works pretty well.
I don't know why I would be scared that my business might fall apart. It doesn't.
The business doesn't fall apart. You still have to learn how to do it. And I'll be candid, we're still learning how to get good when we're remote. It is something I kind of battle against a little internally because I love being in office. I think we're super productive. But the downside is we're not taking advantage of a global workforce. So we're paying New York salaries for pretty much all roles.
Yeah.
And over a long period of time, am I missing out by not hiring an amazing person for some specific skill because they live elsewhere? Potentially. So we'll see how that evolves.
Have you found that by letting people go for a month remote, you retain people more, you get better caliber of talent?
The thing that's been interesting is when most people come back, their reaction is not like, that's sick, why can't we do it always? Like they're like, yeah, it was great. But they're like, oh, I missed the office. I kind of missed being around everyone. And it almost builds renewed enthusiasm for being back at the workplace.
Interesting. I think we're thinking about trialing something like that in August here, or maybe July, because it's
people
miserable.
Like, again, there's no one, and also the benefit you have is like people got annoyed on the internet as they always do, but no one in our current company has kids. But I think if you have kids, you have to do it over the summer, right? Because no one can go in February.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why don't you just hang out with the kids more?
Yeah.
Or is that not? Is that something a person without kids would say?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we won't put that on Twitter so I get murdered.
Good for engagement.
Exactly. Well, that is true. Yeah. So, we know that 90% of startups fail, but you chose to keep doing startups anyway. Were you ever scared that you weren't going to make it or that it was going to fail?
I am more scared this time, and I'll tell you why. Because the first time, it doesn't matter. You're expected to fail. The first time, like most companies fail, you'll probably fail. It's fine. This time, I have a stronger fear of failure because I've built up this like self-image of myself as someone that is good at companies. I've told other people what to do. I've sat on panels telling people what to do. It'd be fucking embarrassing to publicly fail. So this time, there's more of a fear. What I've realized as a second time founder is a lot of things are easier. Fundraising is easier, hiring is easier, but truly building a product that people like is always going to be hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is scarier, especially when you're public.
Mhm.
I think about that now with these companies, and we have a lot of companies. So, like, ultimately, one of them that is public will fail.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of self-worth wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I'm always mouthing off on the internet about
Yeah.
stuff. I better know what the fuck
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
talking
I'm
about.
like, oh, how embarrassing. They all like the startup guru, like, yeah, telling everyone what to do. But the funny thing is, what you'll find at least is even if that were to happen, there may be some pockets that may kind of laugh at you or whatever. But the people who know, the people who build businesses ultimately know how difficult this whole thing is, that you're not going to get that from them.
Yeah. Do you try to surround yourself with a certain type of person in order to achieve these big things and not get crushed?
Probably more so when I was younger, when I was living in California, I did that. Now, honestly, I like a diversity of people in that I like people that are very competitive, but they don't have to all be competitive at building the largest startup. Like I'll get bored if I'm around people that don't want to be the best at something,
Yeah.
but I can be around people that want to be the best at like running a sub 3 hour marathon or like the best at whatever special skill. I think that kind of diversity is probably more fun than just people that want to build startups or businesses or whatever.
Yeah. And I do think at some point levels of the game, you kind of money becomes slightly less interesting to talk about.
Mhm.
And it's more the game and winning.
Yeah.
I've sort of had to pressure myself into keep talking about money because when I was younger, I wish that other people would have told me the truth. They're like, how much did you make? How much did you actually spend? Like, what happens at this point? And I think once you start, you just don't talk about that anymore. And the people who do kind of talk about it in a scammy way and it's not real.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that you still share so many of here's how much money we made. Here's what happened here. Like, that's really rare.
Yeah. I think the other thing I've talked to friends in similar spaces is a lot of people ended up having very different attitudes towards it. And the thing I've tried to consciously be careful of is not to become the person where they're so addicted to the chase of more money for the money itself, where it becomes a little like you'll never be enough. Like I know people who have mid hundreds of millions of dollars who are sad they're not a billionaire. And I don't know. I find that kind of sad. Like I think if you want to be a billionaire because you want to win the game, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you don't have enough and you're coming from this place of scarcity, that's something I'm consciously trying to avoid.
Yeah. Do you still feel like you're poor and you don't have money? Or have you gotten
I feel
over
like
that?
I have an infinite amount of money. It's not, as I said, it's not that I'm lacking for anything. I think if anything, what will change by my further success is a number that I go to the grave with in like all practical yet somewhat dark terms.
That's so fascinating. So you don't have any of that poor kid mentality anymore.
No, I think I have.
Did you
I'm very
ever?
blessed. I think I have infinite. When I first came to America, I remember just like because my parents had saved their entire life for me to be there, I was like, I didn't spend money. Like spending money felt frivolous and stupid. And I think that sort of sense of scarcity made me appreciate not having to think about money. So to me, it's amazing to not have to think about it. Like, let's imagine we're on a family vacation, flights get canceled, we need to go rebook some expensive flights. Just not having to think about any of that, being like, oh, here's a credit card. I don't have to worry about it. That to me is the real value of it. Yeah, when I fly whatever business class, first class. My seat is flat, but I don't need a private jet.
Yeah, agree.
So stuff like that.
Sometimes I'd like one though.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. We were on a tiny one the other day to Marfa because we bought some land out there, which is a ridiculous thing, but it was anyway. So, and the one nice thing about them is just the time savings. But the thing that people don't realize, like a nice business class seat, way nicer than a seat, except on the biggest jet out there. So I think a lot of this is just flexing on the internet.
The pain of maintaining stuff, and yes, eventually you can outsource that and you scale it all out, is a lot of times someone was telling me, some old like billionaire dude or whatever, that like there's no yacht better than your friend's yacht. Like if like if you get to like do the fun thing once in a while when you have to deal with it, but not deal with all the work that it entails, that's the best.
I agree with that. I still totally have the poor kid mentality. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it, where I'm pretty sure at any moment, like we could totally be broke again. And I don't know if that's an edge sometimes or not, but I think it's really cool that you seem to have been like, no, I'm going to be really grateful for what I have. And I think that's a total
Yeah,
hack.
it's a battle I have to have with my mom quite often because she's always like, oh, like you're paying for this like slightly expensive vacation. What if you run out of money? I'm like, Mom, I can show you an Excel model, right? Like we can play with this. Like that's not how math works. Like we can, like I could spend 10 times more, and like this is not. We'll be fine.
I love the line, Mom, I'm going to show you an Excel model.
Like,
She's like, that doesn't help.
yeah, it doesn't help. She's like, this feels like a lot of money.
That's really sweet, though. What would you tell, a young kid listening to all this today who is just like, man, I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know if I can code. I don't know if I'll ever get there. What should I start? What would you tell a 20-something that wanted to be you?
I think when I started, and I think it's true for a lot of people, there's a certain element of like doing these things for the love of the game in a way that, yes, part of my motivation was to be very successful and make a lot of money. But I also really liked building shit, playing with things, growing products, and to kind of not forget that part. I think anyone listening to this right now, you're in such a fun time to build and play with stuff. Like back when I was in high school, we used like Microsoft Front Page to build web. It was like the tooling was awful, right? Like now there's incredible tools where you can imagine anything, build stuff. I think it's a great time to like, just go deep on that, have fun with it. And I think it's a phenomenal time for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think also if you do interesting things, then interesting people find you interesting.
100%.
And so just build something, whatever it is. Especially because these days, I mean, we find this on the internet. People think it's cool that you start a vending machine route and you talk about it. Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and just try to build. And I think we're losing some of that.
I think like the act of creation. I guess I talked about the good part now. I think the dangers of now is it's become so much easier to consume. Like there's so much more stuff to consume that it's very easy to fall into this consumption trap where like you're spending 4 hours a day watching TikTok videos or whatever. That fighting that I would imagine to be the hardest challenge. I don't know what it's like to grow up when you've been, I was talking to someone who had Instagram since she was 11 years old. I don't know what that does to your brain or what that's like to deal with. So I guess being able to counter that is probably the challenge. But yeah, if you can create instead of consume, that'll take you a long way.
You're single, right?
Yeah.
Not married. No girlfriend.
No girlfriend at the moment.
Why not?
Hey, is that? I mean, I was in a pretty long-term relationship when I was young, like 20 to 27, and I think dating in New York can be quite fun. But the downside of that is, I think the challenge a lot of people have is a little bit of the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah,
where you're
too many models
when you're dating someone and there's someone else and
not Excel models.
Yeah,
other models.
correct. But with that said, I mean,
how old are you?
I'm 35 now.
Yeah,
and my parents weren't that excited when I started the second business. They're like, you should get a wife. Like that, we would be more excited at this point with a wife than another company. So
were they nervous when you started your first one? And how did you deal with the fact that maybe you wanted to take a different path than what your parents wanted you to do?
It polarized my mom and dad a little bit because initially they were supportive, but then I said I had 2 years of nothing quite working out. And my dad was very much like, dude, just keep trying stuff. Like, like I wanted to do a business. I never could. You have every opportunity in the world. You're super young. My mom was like, why don't you get a job at Facebook? They may hire you. Like you should go work for someone. So it bifurcated a little between the two. But as soon as the company started doing well, I think my mom was happy.
Got on board. Yeah, I mean,
but even like when I was close to dropping out of college at one point, my mom was very against that. I think my dad's a little bit more risk taking.
Would you tell a younger version of you to do the same path?
I'm very happy with the path I took. I think I was very fortunate that I was in the right place at the right time. Like when I look at all the people I met when I was in California between the age of like 18 and 23, they've all gone on to do such incredible things. There's something special and unique about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if such a place exists today, by the way. Like maybe like if it does, it may be online somewhere. I don't think it exists in like
So you think Silicon Valley is kind of dead?
I think it's not it's at the time, like so this again was 2007, 8 till 2013. There was no competition, right? Like New York didn't have as many companies, like
Mhm.
LA didn't have as many companies. So I think the rise of the rest of the world has been generally a good thing. But if you wanted to be in a startup, you had to go to Silicon Valley then.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I remember back in the day, like remember AOL, the
Yeah.
and Steve Case had his Rise of the Rest tour.
Mhm.
Remember that? And he would go around the country basically on this bus talking to second and third tier cities, which like probably were
Yeah.
New York back then,
Yeah.
but anywhere else besides Silicon Valley, trying to get people to do entrepreneurship. And now it's existing all over the place. I mean, you're here in Austin, and we had a portfolio company. Did you go to the dinner on Saturday?
No.
Okay. We had a portfolio company dinner with a bunch of our portcos, and I think there were like 8 of them in
Yeah.
town.
Wow.
Which is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
2 of them are billion-dollar businesses and they're here.
It's
Like, you would have
incredible.
never had
Yeah.
that on our come up.
When I started Teachable in New York in 2013, 2014, it was a weird thing to do. Like even at the time, it was we were questioned a lot. Like, why are you building this company in New York? And there actually was a general sense that you couldn't find experienced startup people in New York because anyone with experience would be in San Francisco. Ironically, we had a good time recruiting then because there's never a shortage of people in their 20s want to live in New York. So there was a
Yeah.
big exodus of people. But yeah, now it's everywhere.
You also sold your company during the stock market crash of 2020, right? What was that like?
So we ended up signing the deal to sell the company on the single biggest drop in market history. It was a Thursday when COVID was starting to be real. Then on Tuesday, we announced the deal, which then became the new biggest stock market crash in history. So it was a very confusing time because on the one hand, we're like, man, like probably a great time to sell your business. Asset values are falling. But on the other hand, we saw our biggest sign up and revenue days at Teachable because this was the opposite sort of trend where our business, like we sold the company at about 25 million in ARR and we doubled to 50 million 3 months later.
Wow.
Which was our growth projection for the next like 12 plus months.
Then you could have had extra infinite money.
Correct. But again, like part of me was like, oh, I should have waited. And I was like, my internal dialogue is life has been so good to you. You've been so fortunate. Don't be the whiny rich asshole who's like, oh, if only I could have had more. Like, like net, I'm so grateful for everything I've gotten. So every time that voice comes, I'm like, shut up. Like
I agree
life's
with
worked
that.
out pretty well.
Well, plus, I think it's cool to build something that's never existed before. So, like, Teachable was one of the really big learning platforms back in the day. Now there's a lot of them. That's awesome. There's open market. But this new thing at Carry doesn't really exist. So, thankfully, like, you had enough to keep going.
And with Teachable, I was passionate about one side of the business, but I was not passionate about the other side of the business. Like, I was always a very bad student. I didn't go to class. Like, even when it came to like online courses, I didn't take a ton of them. I liked the business of being a creator and that side of it, but I'm more passionate about the business I'm building this time around than the first time.
Really, tax code just gets you going.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge in a way that, like again, in the Teachable business, I found it fascinating how creators make money and run their business. But I was always a terrible student. Like I never went to class. Like the idea of like I was not passionate about education quite the same way.
Would you tell a young kid today to go to college?
I think go to college as a great way to grow as an individual, as a person, potentially because it's fun. I wouldn't go there for the sole purpose of like maximizing my future income.
Yeah,
So I think what college is, it becomes a luxury good where if you can afford it, you have time, you have parents have money, whatever, go do it, have fun, have an incredible time.
What about an MBA?
I almost never hire MBAs. And once in a while, if they do, it's despite their MBA.
I always say that we have to wash the MBA off you, even though I have one.
At the same time, again, look, if you're 27 years old, 28 years old, you've worked pretty hard as a banker, kind of want to chill for 2 years, to get into Stanford, Harvard, whatever, it's a pretty good life. You'll meet cool people, you'll hang out. Think of it as a mid-career vacation, sure. But if you fully go there to internalize how to be better at business, then that's a big red flag.
Yeah, huge waste of time. But I think it's useful for people to say stuff like that because Lord knows that's not how they're selling the stuff these days. And, I was listening to,
And now it costs what, like $100,000 a year?
yeah, I mean, back in my day, I was in finance. And so they
Yeah.
paid for it. So that was sweet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get to make whatever I made at the time. Plus, you guys pay for my college. Awesome.
Oh, you also keep your salary?
I did a fucking great deal back in the day.
Wow.
This is one of my proudest
Yeah.
deals, actually. I was working at State Street at the time, and they paid me. I was making, great money for me
Yeah.
back then, a couple $100K a year, great. And then they paid for me to go to Georgetown for my MBA. And they had no clawback provision. So typically how it works is if they pay for your MBA, you got to stay for like 2 or 3 years.
Sounds like a terrible deal from their perspective.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so big. They're like, shut up, you tiny little
Yeah.
analyst or whatever I was. But what's interesting is I'm actually going to see Dave Ramsey on Monday. And I was watching his old videos. And there was this video, Ankur, where somebody said, they're like, we're $1 million in debt. And he's like, oh, Lord, what'd you do for that? And then they said, we are $450,000 in student loan debt for
Crazy.
2 people that make $70,000 each a year.
MBAs or
advanced degrees,
advanced degrees.
in like policy or something.
Yeah.
They work for the government. And I just think that is almost, of course, that is their decision. That wasn't a very good decision. But also, we've been so programmed that to me, that is a huge disservice to 2 people that like, they will never be able to get out from underneath that.
Yeah.
And they can't even get out of it with bankruptcy.
Yeah, I think there's so much programming of like, oh, you don't know what to do, go to school. It's never a bad idea. I think we need to undo a lot of that education.
Yeah, and that's why I think Teachable is so important, and why what we do, I hope, is important for people. You know what else is weird? People hate online courses and people hate online education. Yeah. Like they equate it with like if you can't do, you teach, or that it's all scams. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I also think when we haven't gotten there, but at some point, the way online education works, we're going to look back on what it is today and laugh. Because today, when you look at online education, it is really just a mishmash of old formats delivered, right? It's like, oh, we used to have videos, so let's take videos and let's like we're basically doing the old paradigm now. And I don't have better ideas yet, but someone will, and we kind of need to rebuild education in a way that's digitally native.
Almost like a Duolingo advanced version, etc.
Or I'm sure it'll vary a lot by what's
your hottest ideas?
What you're learning. I mean, for me, what's always worked is just doing stuff. Like even in college, like yes, I would eventually study because there was a test, but like I only learned how to do anything, whether it's coding, building a business, like playing a sport, like really the majority of it comes from doing the thing.
That's so true. Yeah. So it almost has to be, I mean, that's the same when we think about our curriculum. It's you learn to some level, but simultaneous with learning, you have check-ins that basically make sure you're learning the right thing at the right time. And then you have execution, which is like take little baby steps that can't ruin your life to start. And then you start taking more and more aggressive steps where by the end of the learning, you should have fully been done with the doing.
Yeah.
But we don't have any fancy tech on it yet. And I do feel like that's the future.
Yeah, I think like just getting people to, because online courses at Teachable, what we saw is like 50% of times people wouldn't open the thing.
I know.
When you charge more money, you actually got better results, ironically. A lot of people were more likely to take the course, more likely to report a happier satisfaction just by charging more. So that helps a little bit. But even then, people are their own worst enemy in a lot of ways and trying to find ways to beat that.
Yeah, I also think that's fascinating. Like people do not value the stuff that they do not pay for. Mm-hmm. That's another reason why we charge whatever we charge, because I just haven't found a way where people will actually do a thing that they do not pay for.
Yeah.
It almost becomes like cute to download and no desire to execute.
And we saw that repeatedly, which is why this was a while back, but every single year for many years, we looked at our most successful creators. The average price kept going up and up and up.
Interesting.
And what we found is most creators could double their price and see no change in conversion rate.
Whoa, that's wild.
Because the other side of that is people were always afraid of charging their worth, especially if there were new creators. They always felt like, why would anyone pay me for this? Like my information is not that valuable. Like, so they're all undercharged.
What would you say to somebody who was afraid to charge what they're worth?
I would tell them, even though this sounds crazy, double your price and work backwards. Let's say you double your price, there's no way it's worth that. Okay, what would you have to change to make it be worth that price? But you're just doubling it. Like that's just take that as a given and then work backwards.
That's really smart. What other hacks have you learned from building two companies that are arguably both worth nine figures?
So one caveat I'll give is I felt very smart after running a company. The first time, like I've learned everything. When you do it a second time, you realize to get good at something, you have to do it hundreds of times. So while I feel good about our strategy now, it's just quite likely we'll make a second different set of mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think the lessons that have kind of stayed with me is one, the types of people we're hiring. The first time around, I focused a lot on pedigree, like what company you worked at, where you went to school. Um, what I found is a lot of that stuff doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Like a lot of times you find someone from a very impressive sounding company, they haven't actually done the thing. Like Stripe or Google is not successful because of their contribution. They just stayed there at the right time in the right place. But finding someone who uniquely wants to be at a startup and wants that kind of challenge is been much better.
What do A players look like versus B or C players?
So the one caveat is I can do a lot of things to try and identify them, but I will get one out of every four hires wrong. And if you work with that constraint, you can be smart about it. So wherever possible, I love to have people contract or do something for a couple of months because you can always tell after you start working with someone if they're going to be good. In fact, I almost never had someone who starts out great, who isn't always great, or someone who is a poor performer who you're like, oh, let me give them more time.
Dude, me neither. And I got killed on the internet for that. I got totally, I think the tweet was like the way it starts is the way it will be. If you start out as a bad performer, you will never be a good performer. And never is always a triggering word, but it's actually never. I've never once had somebody that started poorly that circled around. Never.
I've still like, which is why I don't think PIPs and performance improvement plans really truly work. And sometimes I think they do a disservice to both the employer and the employee. Yeah. But the takeaway for me is like, okay, if you can kind of test the waters, work with someone as a contractor before or something, that helps a lot.
Yeah. And like the other part, I think everybody gets mad when you think about poor performers versus not. But the other thing is just like fit versus not.
Yeah.
Because, we're kind of psychopaths. So like our businesses run really fast all the time.
That's a very important caveat. When we say poor performer, it doesn't mean this person will be a poor performer everywhere. It's just like there's probably a place out there that they will do great at, and you're kind of holding them back from finding that.
Yeah, 100%. What if somebody wants to be an A player? What do A players do?
Again, varies by the role, but to me, an A player is someone that I don't have to give initiative to. I don't have to tell them what to do. They're one step ahead of the game. They're always thinking of how to make the business better. And for a lot of roles, like I am learning from them, right? Like if there's a lot of areas where I don't. It's hard for me to identify the functional parts of why someone is an A player. I need them to actually tell me.
Yeah. Is there something that if somebody does this, you automatically go, not gonna make it?
I think when we find people that are just looking around, looking for what things to do, and they aren't really taking that initiative, that I think makes it very tough. The other thing, and this is my own bias, like there are some cultures that are measure twice, cut once. Yeah. I am the opposite. I'd rather have a frenetic pace of execution, even if you make more mistakes. Because for our kind of company, speed is one of the only advantages we have. So I index a lot in people who move really fast.
Yeah, me too. It seems like a common trait, actually.
It is. But I'll be careful to say like as an example, right? Like I think Apple is a phenomenal company, like one of the best of all times. Their culture is so different and it works, right? Like they're very secretive. They will potentially take many, many years to build something and build something beautifully. Figma did the same thing. They didn't release a product for 4 or 5 years. I couldn't do that. It's not my kind of company, but I want to caveat for the right type of founder, there's a way of, doing that.
That's a good
It's just
point.
not my style. My style is frenetic. We'll build in public. We'll fail in public. We'll launch bad things. The things we'll launch will eventually become better.
Yeah, yeah, same. Although, I mean, I've never built something as hard as a SaaS marketplace, like our marketplace in general. Like we're building BizScout right now. Fuck my life, that thing's hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's-
3-sided marketplaces, which is what you built.
Yeah. But the thing with marketplaces, what we found is they take so long to scale.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of demoralizing and Teachable. It took us a few years to hit $1 million in annualized revenue. And we'd have creators come in, use our platform, make $1 million in like 2 months. We're like, what are we doing wrong? But once you get the flywheel going, it's just amazing and stays.
Yeah. I really understand why. But the cool part about marketplaces are those are moated in a world in which increasingly technology will not be moated.
Yeah.
So like somebody could go build the same duplicate of what
People
we
still
have.
use Craigslist, which is kind of crazy.
Oh yeah. And it doesn't have like the highest revenue per employee company out there is Craigslist or something.
Yeah, I think it's, by the way, I think that'll change. There'll be $1 billion company soon with one person and all of that. But for now, it's getting there.
Yeah, but I do think the cool part is like thinking in today's age, given technology and how fast it's moving, what are the areas where there's a human differential?
I think distribution is probably going to become more important than it already was.
Yeah.
Because if the cost of building something goes down to almost nothing, reaching people becomes the most valuable thing. The other thing that I think is a way of...
So you're going to start a YouTube channel?
Not yet, but I mean, distribution does matter.
Well, you guys have X that you're doing a ton on. Plus, you're starting courses yourself for people to learn.
Distribution makes a huge difference. The other competitive advantage we have, and no one thinks of it as a competitive advantage because the shittiest one of all is regulatory stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like we are a regulated organization. We're RIA. We're going to be a broker dealer. Even if AI makes it really easy to do stuff, the SEC is not going to approve people in 2 days. FINRA is not going to approve people in 2 days. So regulatory moats, I think, are real and will continue being real, even as everything else gets faster.
That's a great point. I mean, we think about where AI took over first. It was graphic design and copyright and all of that. Zero regulatory moat. Yeah. Whereas, why couldn't it take over accounting?
Yeah.
Regulation.
So even like I think the AI to help lawyers will be very good and exist for many more years before the AI that lets you replace a lawyer, because you're still going to want to have your lawyer when shit gets bad.
100%. And you want CYA. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you think, like when it comes to, we talk about them like mercenaries versus missionaries. So we love investing in second-time founders, of which you are, so that was sweet, and people who have lived the problem for a long time and felt their pain personally. You've invested in a ton of companies by now. Is that important to you too? Do people need to live their pain point or just like come up with a random idea, and who has a higher likelihood of success?
It's just so much easier. Like as an investor, if I see a company, I'm less biased. Like I'm fine with either type. But if you were a friend telling me I want to start a company, how do I maximize my chances of even getting funded? I would say solve your problem. You already know who to build for. It's easier to find customers. Like, yes, you can build a successful company building vertical SaaS for construction workers, but it's going to be really hard because you're spending all your time trying to learn their problems. You skip so much stuff by building for yourself. So that's always my best advice.
Yeah.
In terms of patterns for founders, I've honestly seen a good mix of both. The part that surprised me is during bull markets, how little some founders have cared, which sounds kind of crazy. But like when I raised money, there's a sense of fiduciary responsibility in a way that the company may fail, but people are entrusting this on me. So even if things get really hard, I'm going to like internalize that pain and try and work through it. But we saw a lot of companies who raised money during good times. As soon as things get hard, they're shut down their business or, kind of just walk away from the fire.
Yeah. We have a mutual friend. I'll tell you afterwards so he doesn't murder me because he's on the internet too, but who had a company and he forwarded me the email. He's like, can you believe this? I was like, yes, I can. Because the email was from a founder that raised a bunch of cash and then been like, you know what? My mental health is really struggling.
I
know exactly who I'm talking about.
I've seen that email.
And then like asks for like a couple month vacation to like.
They sent me like forwarded the text, like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Okay, we were on the same
Yeah.
thing. But and listen, mental health is a real thing. But I think one of the reasons it's important to talk about all this is if you're going to do a startup, especially a venture backed startup, expect massive mental pain.
Mhm.
Just expect it. And if you don't want that, that's very healthy of you, quite
Yeah, it's
honestly.
probably better. It's just that there's a sense of fiduciary responsibility, and
Yeah, do another business.
like again, one of I don't want to kind of name them without one of the companies we both invested in is the opposite of that, where the founder did not have the easiest time fundraising in a very hot market, but now as a result, they're a stronger company and they're better for it than every single company that had a really easy time fundraising.
Yeah, it does. It definitely, that's the steel in the fire, you know? I also liked what Brett Adcock said about Figure. Did you see his quote on, what did he say? He said, every company has two things. They have a speed, so magnitude, and direction vector problem.
Mhm.
And if they get either one of those two wrong, magnitude or vector, they'll lose.
Interesting.
And
I've not seen that.
yeah, I thought it was a really good quote. I mean, obviously, a dude who reportedly, as we're supposed to say, has a $47 billion valuation, and getting to watch him sort of inside the back end a little
Mhm.
bit. Talk about somebody who can handle massive pain. I
Yeah.
can't think of a worse company to build than robotics. That's so hard. But kind of gets that speed matters and direction. And if
Yeah.
you can hit those two things, you don't have to be that much smarter.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think raw intelligence is that helpful. Like if I think about what are the things, like when I'm looking at a founder, personally, the things I look for is do they have what I call horsepower, but it doesn't have to be intelligence. It could be capacity for work or whatever. But do they have that?
Yeah.
Are they able to move really fast? And are they able to convince people to do things? The third thing is the thing you realize you spend most of your time trying to convince people to do things. You try to convince investors to give you money, convince customers to use your product, convince employees to join your team. So, how convincing is someone? And I think that ends up being really, really important.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I mean, I think I remember Noah Kagan, who we were talking about before, a mutual friend of ours. He would say to me, like, "You're the hardest working, person I
Yeah.
know online," or something. And I remember at first I was like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm really smart." And don't just say I work hard. But as I've gotten older, I realized that there is just a huge value to being willing to put the nose to the grindstone. And it's kind of gone a little bit out of favor, or at least it was for a few years. It was like, I love Gary Vee, but it would be like, Gary Vee, stop it. Like, get off with the hustle
Yeah.
porn. And then I love that clip from Timothy Chalamet, what the fuck's his name?
Yeah.
Where he talks about just like, I want to be a great.
Yeah. We got very soft, I think, as a culture for a while.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if an athlete says that, like everyone's like Kobe Bryant, well, like, yes, let's do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, as a founder or as an entrepreneur, we tend to expect the results without being willing to put in the work.
Yeah. Okay. I want to do a couple rapid fires with you. That made me think of something. One of the books I'm reading right now, I want to hear yours, is I've just read like every book I possibly can from Phil Jackson from his time leading the Lakers and the Bulls. I couldn't tell you a fucking thing about basketball,
Yeah.
but the leadership components of it are astounding, and how they had to like pair together the team. Plus, I didn't realize he was a Zen Buddhist the whole time, which is wild. You probably knew all this because you're a dude, but I don't know anything about that. So I'm reading that book. Is there anything right now that's like really inspiring you that you're reading?
I think the book that like got me started down this entire path, and I still periodically reread it, is Richard Branson's book.
Like,
And the reason, like, okay, the business is great and all of that, but there's this like spirit of him just having a fucking blast while doing this, which I find to be kind of healthy, right? Like, yes, he works really hard. He starts a lot of businesses, but he's doing it for the love of the game. And he's having a really good time doing it. So I find that part pretty cool.
yeah.
Ironically, I read a lot now, but I probably spend 70-80% of my time reading non-business books. Like, I just find reading enjoyable. And
Like Fourth Wing? Are you a fantasy guy?
no, not fantasy. Like, I
No,
do.
it's only for women.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
werewolf smut for you. Copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, so like business books have their place, but
So what do you read then?
lately I've been reading a lot of Ishiguro, Japanese fiction. Like, but yeah,
Interesting.
just I'll pick an author, I'll get into it, I'll read everything they've written.
Yeah.
But yeah. I find it relaxing. It's my like nighttime like turn off work routine.
If you haven't read them, there's two books called Adventure Capitalist and Investment Biker. Have you read those?
Why
It's
does the name sound familiar?
because it was Soros's partner back in the day,
Right.
Jim Rogers,
Yeah.
who was like, they had the best performing hedge fund for like some 5 or 10 year
Nice.
period. Then he just bails. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
He takes his money and he goes and rides a bike all through Russia.
Yeah.
And then,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah, and a convertible all through Africa and Latin America. Anyway,
Yeah,
the point is,
yeah, go ahead.
nah, it's just fun. He invests a ton while he's doing it and adventures, which I think is a cool.
Yeah. It made me also realize when I read, I think it was called More Money Than God, which is about hedge funds, how much easier our lives are as a venture capitalist. Because when these hedge fund people make a mistake, they like take down the economy of Thailand. Like, like really bad things happen. Like, here, cool, you invest a company fails. Oh, your bet against the pound failed, but now 7 countries are in a depression and you've like thrown off the entire global economy because you took a levered $43 billion bet that you got wrong. So
yeah, it is. It's a little bit of a zero-sum game, which I never like, because entrepreneurship doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I saw somewhere that like the global, the what was the tweet? It was like the world is like $417 trillion in debt. It was like, who are we in debt to? Like the emoticons or something?
Yeah,
that were like
the whole thing
Decepticons.
is sort of like, the global financial crisis where like Iceland like levered up 40 times and just blew it all. It was just, it's like countries drunk at the casino.
Yeah. But I do think one of the good parts is like to wrap it up. And I'd love to end with this last question is like, at the end of the day, we can focus so much on all the high level things that are happening in the world, totally out of our control, who's in power, who's not, whatever, or we can just build something. So if there's a builder out there needing a little inspiration, what would you tell them?
There's nothing like actually going out and doing it. Like the amount of people I've spoken to that are like constantly stuck in the analysis paralysis stage of like trying to find the perfect idea, find the perfect brand name, trying to find, the perfect logo versus just going out there, putting yourself out there, asking someone for money and doing the thing. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Carrie, and what's your handle on Twitter and Instagram so everybody can slide into?
My full name, Ankur Nagpal on Twitter, on Instagram, AnkurNA, and Carrie.com, which was worth a lot of money.
So they're all just going to slide into your DMs, both women, now that they know that you're single, you're welcome. And also people asking for money.
Perfect. Sounds great.
You got all kind of gold diggers in the mix. Ankur, thanks for being here. You're the man.
Thanks for having me.
And now let's hear from Ankur on his postcard.
Even though it may seem like it at the time, there's no amount of time that you will spend with your parents that you will ever regret when you get older.
Oh, now I'm crying. That's so lovely. You're the man. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having
me. This sounds a little woo-woo maybe to people. Follow your energy, follow your flow, but you're also a doctor and you have a very scientific and straightforward mind. And you have a book full of not just, your feelings on this, but also some data behind it. Like, what does the world say about this? Is it true that if you follow where your energy goes, you can actually be more productive? What have you found in your studies?
Yeah, so this was a huge part of the research component of the book. Trying to figure out, intuitively, I had this feeling that, when I feel good about my work, I'm kind of more productive at it. But that kind of goes against the whole discipline narrative. You got to do shit that you don't want to do even when you don't feel like it. There's that quote from Muhammad Ali where he says, I suffered every day for 10 years, but it was worth it to live life as a champion, or something like that. And I always thought of that quote and I was like, I don't want to suffer for 10 years to live life as a champion. Maybe some people do, but I feel like, in the modern world, a lot of us realize that suffering for 10 years for the sake of some outcome on the other end, you'll sort of kind of regret the 10 years of suffering. And so I went on a huge rabbit hole of research around this. And there's this researcher called Barbara Fredrickson, who in 2001 came up with this theory called the broaden and build theory. And basically the idea is that positive emotions, feeling good, ultimately drive productivity and creativity, and they reduce your stress. And the theory behind this is if we think back to caveman times, when imagine positive feelings and negative feelings. When you have negative emotions, that's like, oh shit, a tiger is about to eat me. I'm about to get ostracized from my group. Everything closes down. You become very, very focused on that threat and you can't really think outside the box. You're just focused on how the fuck do I get away from this tiger? That's what negative emotions do to us. They like spike our adrenaline and cortisol levels. They increase our heart rate. They increase our breathing rate. They have this, it's like when people get angry in a conversation with their partner, you feel that, you start seeing red and you feel that agitation. Now, if we take a breath and we think positive emotions, what do positive emotions mean? Positive emotions mean you're safe. It means you're in a connected environment. It means, you feel like you have a bit of control over what's happening in your life. And it means that you're not getting mauled by a tiger or about to get, ostracized from your group. Now, when you experience positive emotions, the mind broadens and you start being open to more possibilities. Your peripheral vision starts to become more focused. You start to then explore new areas to be like, okay, I'm feeling chill right now. Let me go explore that cave over there. I'm feeling chill right now. Let me see if I can find some seeds in that new forest over there. And so you broaden your kind of the actions that you do. And the second part is build. You build cognitive resources, you build relationships with people, you build skills and you learn things when you're feeling good. And we find that, if they've done so many studies where you bring people into a lab, you split them into two groups, and you ask them to do the same like task of creativity. And so some sort of creative task. And one group, you just give a little chocolate bar before the task, and the other group, you give nothing. Or one group, you show them like a film, a sort of 10-second movie that evokes positive emotions. And the other group, you show them nothing, or you show them like a sad scene. You find that the people who have been primed to feel good are more creative and more productive. And if on the studies they've done where they measure their stress levels and, heart rate and stuff, you find that they're a lot less stressed as well. So feeling good, following our energy, positive emotions, all of this stuff sounds a bit woo, but there's so much evidence showing that if we can feel good about our work, it makes us more productive, it makes us more creative, and it makes us less stressed. And it also gives us more energy, which we can then apply to the other important things in our life.
For writers and creatives, we often talk about priming, right? I know before I write, I like to go read some of the greats. Like I'll read Charles Bukowski and I'll read just a few of his lines because not only is there a positive feeling, but maybe some of that greatness rubs off on me. And it feels the same with productivity, perhaps. On our team calls, one of my big pet peeves as a leader is if people start a meeting or end a meeting, low energy. I think if you are in charge of the vibe setting of a meeting, you want to bring them in and you want to come in and be like, what are we doing today? I'm so excited you guys are here. You're spending your life with us on our mission. What a treasure. Thank you. And then at the end, this is where I think a lot of leaders really mess up, is at the end, they just go, okay, well, anything. Okay, see you guys later. As opposed to having something put aside specifically for the end that's a little bit of like a call to arms. Because people don't really remember the beginning, but they will remember the end. And if you want to be the one to prime your team to do more, then you want that to move forward. I've noticed a couple of things being friends with you, that you integrate this into your life consistently. For instance, the mic check. Tell people what you do on a mic check. Does the internet know about this?
Yeah, so when I'm doing a mic check, I will either sing or I'll recite lyrics from a song. So earlier today, we were doing a mic check. I was like, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Or before I'm filming a video, I'll either play some like energizing music in the background, or I'll grab the guitar, which is often next to my filming setup, and I'll just, sing Budapest by George Ezra or something like that. And my team will just be looking at me being like, yep, there he goes again. But it's a good sign because it means I'm about to film a video, and priming myself into that state of energy. People like Tony Robbins do this before they go on stage. They like have a little trampoline, they jump around a bit. And for people who are, a bit cynical, like mostly I speak to Brits and they're all very cynical. It's like, what is this bullshit? But actually, the state that you're in has an enormous impact on how you show up in your work and how you show up for the people around you.
Yeah. Well, you think about it this way. My husband was a Navy SEAL for many, many years, and they're huge on priming. And so before they go to war, there's a specific set of sort of things that they usually do, including usually really aggressive music that's sort of like played, throughout. There's a lot of like camaraderie, joking. A lot of them do a workout before they go out, because you're sort of like feeling strong before you go out in sort of something that you want to be strong in. And so even those who are hyper cynical, if you can imagine that somebody who's going to war does it with the highest price, when you are doing it with your everyday, that seems to make sense.
You got to get clear. In the next 3 months, how much do you want to make?
Today is probably the most tactical blueprint on making your first dollars and completely changing the way you interact with money. And it's with my friend Lewis Howes. He is a multiple-time New York Times bestselling author. He runs one of the biggest podcasts in the world called School of Greatness.
We all have a money story. Money doesn't heal who you are, it reveals who you are. And until you learn to heal, then it's just going to reveal.
It is therapy, but it's a different type.
It is. Most people have an emotional reaction with money.
47% of Americans die broke? And why?
You got to heal your money wounds. People may not want to hear this.
Hi, I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal Podcast. I have struggled with this question for the better part of a decade. What do I tell people who don't have money, who have a bad relationship with money, who don't know how to go further with money? But I think today, for the first time ever, I just heard how to make money even when you have $0 and how to start exactly where you are with what you've got. I was shocked when I started learning about this book because I think most humans will not be able to make money, not because they don't have the tactics, but because you don't actually know how you feel about money, and thus money doesn't know how it feels about you. So if today you feel like you need more money in your life, you should absolutely listen to this episode. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, be prepared to pause it and take some notes, because this is going to be an episode you are going to want to listen to multiple times. I remember when I first met you, you immediately, I barely knew you, and you were like, hey, what do you need? How's that going?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do that. Don't talk to that person. Actually, do this instead. So, like, do you think that half of your success is actually due from just you being this connector and giver? Is that the secret sauce?
Trying to help other people achieve their goals and dreams. That's what I've kind of done since the beginning. And that's one of my gifts or talents. And so I try to lean into that and be a generous giver of my talent. Some people might have a lot of money. That's their talent. Okay, how can I give more of that thing? And that's just my gift. And I think there's 4 different ways of living life with or without money. And the first way, and I've lived all 4 of these. And the first way is what none of us want to live, which is being broke financially and broke emotionally. When I was 24, 25 on my sister's couch, I had no money, 3 credit cards I was living off of, student loan debt, and I wasn't generating any money. So I was financially broken and kind of like spiritually, emotionally broken as well, because my dream had been crushed from getting injured as an athlete. My identity was gone. I was living on my sister's couch. I was like, I'm a grown man acting like a child, getting, taken care of by my sister.
You're too big for a couch, too.
Exactly. It was just like I was broken financially and emotionally, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. So I had no clear game plan. So it was just kind of wallowing in depression, victimhood, why me? No one wants to live that way. That's the first level. The second level is being financially broke still, but starting to feel more emotionally, spiritually abundant, free, excited. And I started to shift after about a year into thinking, okay, I need to get out of this rut. Let me find some coaches, some mentors. Let me start learning. Let me start overcoming fears. Let me start developing skills. And when I started getting momentum around that, it's like something unlocked inside of me where I had this passion, this drive, this excitement, this like, I can take on anything, this kind of fearlessness. And so I was starting to feel more rich inside, even though it wasn't paying off externally in the bank account yet. But eventually that momentum started to build into creating financial freedom. After a few years more after this, I remember I made my first $1 million. And it was like, wow, all this excitement, this hustle, this grind, like I was willing to work all day and night and do whatever it took and help as many people as possible. Say yes to every opportunity. I started generating money. And I was like, okay, now I'm making it. But a few years later, I was obsessive about making more and more. I was like, how do I grow? Every year's got to be bigger. Let's 10x every year. And there was a point after a few years where I lost the internal richness and I started to get more afraid, fearful. I started to feel like everyone was now trying to take advantage of me as opposed to we are working together. People were coming out of the woodwork from middle school who saw I had money and now asking me for money. So it didn't feel good after a while. And it didn't make me feel, it didn't solve all my emotional problems having money. So it was almost like a more challenging thing for me because I had this money. I thought it would make me happier, and it actually wasn't solving my emotional problems. So I felt more emotionally bankrupt, even though I had money financially. And that's a big challenge because you think, okay, let me go make more, build more, become bigger, better, and it's still not filling me up emotionally. That's a scary place to be. And so this is the third level. And I was living in LA here, I don't know, 5 miles away in an apartment building during 2000, 2001, a really nice apartment building where there were a lot of billionaires, millionaires, celebrities, athletes, all that stuff. And I was driving back one day from a road trip, and there was a white tent in the parking lot in the valet. And I said to the valet attendant, I was like, someone didn't jump, did they? Kind of just joking. And he said, yes, someone just jumped like an hour ago and committed suicide from the building I was living in with all these billionaires and millionaires. And I was like, how could someone jump in this building? This is like the nicest building in LA. And I later found out who that person was, who was worth $500 million. A big movie producer and executive. But for whatever reason, he wasn't feeling rich emotionally. He had all the money in the world, but something was off internally that caused him to not love himself, not accept where he was at in his life. And that, separation of having so much externally, but feeling broken internally can cause a lot of pain for people. Having money can solve money problems, but it can't solve self-worth problems necessarily.
Yep.
You can be a net worth millionaire, but be bankrupt, and not be a self-worth millionaire. And the goal is to go from level 0, level 1 to level 4, which is becoming financially free and also becoming emotionally free, spiritually free, rich abundantly internally, feeling peace. And most people are stressed with money right now. They're uncertain with the economy. They don't know where their money's coming from next month, if they're going to have a job or not, if their business is going to collapse or not. They don't understand. There's so much fear and anxiety. And so they're crippled by the fear internally. And when we can set ourselves free emotionally around money in general, we're going to be less, money's not going to have power over us. Whether we're making more or making less, we're still going to feel good with us. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole reason I wanted to write this book.
So true, because increasingly I think peace is the new rich, and everyone has everything besides peace.
Yeah.
If you think about it in the U.S., there are certainly those of us who are still struggling with hunger, certainly those of us that are still in a place where we have massive scarcity. But like people dying of pure starvation in the U.S., not that common.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot, and yet we feel more anxious and like we have less than ever. Mm-hmm. And at first I thought you could just fix it by all of us making more money.
Exactly.
That was my tactic.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's just go. Let's teach more people how to make more money.
You can solve money problems.
You can, but you realize very quickly that, the guy at the top is oftentimes just as unhappy, or maybe more so, because he thought on the way up that he was chasing happiness.
Exactly. And I think we talked about this before. It's like, this is not like a judgment or anything here, but it's when is enough enough? And we can only strive for more and play the game of, I'm going to make $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion, cool, whatever. It's fun. But is it doing it because I don't feel enough?
Yeah.
Or because I don't feel peaceful and I need to make more? Or is it doing it because this is what I love and I want to make a big impact on the world, but I feel good with me whether I make it or I don't? And I think it's getting to that place of being driven by a vision so big or so exciting for you, but not because you need to validate your self-worth.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think the love of the game is why a lot of us continue to do it, but it's brutal. I mean, what would you say to like a young man out there listening to this right now who kind of feels a little lost, destitute, not making money, maybe not even meeting other people, not in a relationship and married like you newly are, and isn't sure where to go next to get even to from level 1 to level 2, just to start making money? Like, what are the changes you made to do that? And what would a young, broke dude who got a chance to talk to Lewis, what would you tell him?
I'd probably say 3 things. The first 3 things that came into mind, I would get a physical practice first, like really master your body, because if you're not feeling confident within yourself, you haven't mastered a routine of rigor or discipline or consistency around some type of working out. And when you master your physical health, or at least you're on a journey of mastering it, doesn't mean you have to have a 6-pack or be shredded or anything like that. But if you have a consistent program with that, 30 to 60 minutes a day, you're going to feel more empowered because you're taking back responsibility of your own agency. Second thing I would say is find a spiritual mentor. When you're lost, You need a spiritual guide in your life. And if you aren't able to tap directly to God or your belief system of why I'm here, then lean on someone you admire. Find someone you admire. I don't care if it's a sports coach, a business leader who follows practices you admire, or a pastor or something like that. Find someone that you admire who is living a life of high values and integrity. Because ultimately, you want to be living that life. You don't want to be living out of integrity, because it may be fun for a while, but you'll always hurt people along the way and ultimately hurt yourself along the way.
By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself.
And then the third thing I would say is to really study and learn about money and make money feel relaxing to you. Most people stress out about it. I stressed about it so much because I didn't understand it. And there's still levels that I don't understand today. It's not like I'm a money expert. I'm not an investing expert or budgeting expert. I've learned how to master these things, but it's more about learning how to have conversations around money where it's fun and you're not fearful around it. Because when you're fearful around something, that thing has power over you. Yep. It triggers you emotionally in your nervous system, and you're afraid to even just tell people your money situation. Most people talk about their sexual intimacy more than they'll talk about their money situation. And if you're willing to have conversations around money and just be more flexible and flowing around these conversations, make it more common, you're going to allow the flow for money to come to you. When we are in fear around something, why would we want that thing to come to us? If we're psychologically, emotionally afraid of it because we don't understand it, we're ultimately going to push it away. We're ultimately going to block the flow of abundance financially to us when we are in fear of that thing. It's an energy flow, and you have to be willing to receive money and be ready and prepared to receive more.
It's actually fascinating. I've never thought about that before, that people are more willing to talk about their sexual intimacy than money.
Yes.
It's actually really true. Some people are willing to talk about money, but only once you have a ton of it at the top. Mm-hmm. And then
people say they don't even reveal what their money or how much they spend.
It's true. It's like somewhere in the mid, there's some like amount of bravado, about, and then you like hit the real money amount and you're like, oh, whoops, that's not cool anymore. I shouldn't talk about it. But that's fascinating. Like you've got, more power to however you want to talk about your sexual intimacy, but you've got entire podcasts like Call Her Daddy or whatever. It's really a lot about sex. And there's nobody coming on here talking about money except almost in a shame-based way. Like I like Caleb Hammer, but being like, this was dumb, this was dumb, this is dumb, this is dumb. As opposed to any sort of vulnerability around it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I just think making it more of a common practice around, hey, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm trying to get to, and being open to having the conversations where it flows more easily.
And is it more like what would that look like in practice? Like Jesse Itzler, for instance, I remember him saying that he would go to the Beverly Wilshire and he would sit in the lunchroom and he would order like the cheapest thing that was on the menu. And the reason he would do it is because it would allow him to sit around all these really rich people. And then he would ask them, like, he would be like, hey, I don't have a lot of money yet.
Yep.
I'm on my way up. How did you get here? Like, What do you do for a living? And he credits that with his creation of NetJets.
100%. Yeah. And it's just having proximity to those conversations. And I think having them more frequently, even with the people in your life, even if people don't have money, just say, hey, let's talk about this. What are we working on today? What are you struggling with? How much money do you have in debt? Like just talking about it, making it more commonplace. Because the more comfortable you are talking about something, I think the easier it is to go create that thing.
And I really like it because there's a lot of books today talking to us about why money's not important. You don't need money. Money doesn't matter. And I think that happens a lot during recessionary periods. Those books do really, really well. Why? Because
you already don't have it. So if somebody can validate
feel-
that you don't
yeah.
need it, you're like,
yeah.
that sounds good. I'm
Yeah,
on
yeah.
board. Also, rich people suck, you know?
Exactly.
But if you can write a book that is instead like, hey, you're not net worthed by your net worth.
Yeah.
That's not your self-worth, but you can be okay pursuing it, I think is really, really powerful.
100%. I think if you want to pursue more money, like pursue as much money as you want. It's where is that pursuit coming from? Is it from a need to prove people wrong? Is it coming from a need because you want to validate yourself that you're worthy or you're better than? You're always going to be creating from a sense of scarcity rather than abundance. And when you create from abundance, a emotionally rich place, money can come and go and it's not as stressful.
Yeah.
There was a company about 1.5 years ago. It was so funny because as I was doing the research for this book and I was writing this book, I hadn't finished it yet. And I was like, I'm still not ready to like finish this book. And for whatever reason, around this time, there was a company that essentially took $1 million from me and that didn't pay me. It was meant to pay me and it didn't pay me. And for weeks, I was like, when are they going to pay? What's going on? It feels like they were stealing from me, right? And I was kind of a mess. I was like, it's $1 million. It's not a small thing. And I felt more taken advantage of. It was more the act of abuse and taking advantage of. And I have stories of feeling taken advantage of as a kid and feeling abused, from sexual abuse to people stealing money from as a kid, all these different things, picked on. And I go, this is perfect timing, actually. After like 2 months of stressing about this, I was like, this is all happening for me because this situation triggered a wound inside of me of abuse, of being taken advantage of a not fairness, right? And it's the exact lesson I still haven't graduated yet. And so after 3 months of this, I finally was like, you know what? They may not pay. It doesn't mean I have to love it, but I get to learn that I'm not tied down by what this company does or doesn't do, that I have an abundant sense inside of me. I can go create this money as well. It doesn't mean I have to like this and be like, yay, this was fun. But right now, this has power over me. It's consuming me.
Yeah.
And I'm living in scarcity. That scarcity is holding me back from being creative, resourceful, and making better decisions. And so once I started doing some healing work around that, I released it and let it go, and I stopped worrying about it. They eventually paid me. And I was like, okay, great. But now this is a lesson, knowing that when I'm in scarcity or living in fear around something or frustration around something, it's not going to feel good. I'm not feeling abundant when I do this. Mm-hmm. So how can I shift the energy? It doesn't mean I still have to handle it and take action and do certain things, but how can I shift my energy to know I'm going to be resourceful in other ways and I'm going to be okay, whether this money comes or they take it from me. And I think that's been a big lesson for me, is learning how to feel peaceful no matter what. It doesn't mean there's not going to be challenge or adversity, but how can I not let something rob me of my peace?
Hard, but really important.
And again, I keep going back to these millionaires and billionaires who are just overly stressed, overly worked, that are on drugs, suicidal, or committing suicide. What's the point of having all the money if you don't love yourself, if you don't have peace? What's the point then? It's just, it doesn't feel like a rich life to me.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because the hard part, I think, is what is the healing practice to that, right? And you know, in my case, I know when I have something that happens that I don't like. One thing happened this morning. It was literally like, you know what my panic words are, Louis? If you ever text me, hey, we need to talk, instant panic. I don't know I don't know who texted me that originally and something terrible happened.
It triggered some wound.
But I just have I go, oh my God, they're leaving me. We're bankrupt. I don't know. Worst case scenario immediately. Oh, every time. And the only way that I found to get around that at like my level, not at the level I want to be at, is most people kind of hide from tough conversations. And I usually, when I get those, say, hey, like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, pick up the phone. Let's have a conversation. What do you want to talk about? You know, or if somebody's like, can we talk, but later today or next week? No, let's do it right now. If you're important enough to like mention the talk, we probably should have the talk. So that kind of helps because usually it's never as bad as you think it is.
Yes.
And so you can clear it out. But what else do you do to get past this scarcity mindset? What are your practices?
You got to heal your money wounds. And it may sound a little woo-woo, it may sound a little weird, and people may not want to hear this. But we all have a money story.
Yep.
Based on how we grew up, whether it be our parents teaching us a certain way, either literally speaking a certain way or their energy. My parents fought all the time. It's my memory. I know it wasn't every day, but it felt like frequently. And when they weren't fighting, they weren't showing each other love. The only time they'd show each other love is after a fight, they'd kind of like hug or kiss barely and like try to mend it. But then it was just like a cycle my whole life. And a lot of this was around not having enough money, stresses around money. So I, in my nervous system, didn't feel emotionally safe with money conversations. So I have these money wounds based on a money story. I also got into a season for about a year and a half where I would steal at grocery stores, like candy bars and stuff when I was like 10, 11. I had kids steal from me. And there's just kind of all these money wounds, these money memories that creates a money story inside of my mind and also my nervous system. You have money story. Your husband has his unique money story. And that creates our money style. How we spend, how we save, how we think about money, how we talk about money. It creates a money personality style that we are today. And until we heal our money wounds and take ourselves to money therapy, which sounds kind of weird, and mend those wounds, we'll continue to live in a certain personality style and create a strategy around money based on that energetic nervous system response. And that's going to create money, a career, a business from that energy until we shift it and heal it. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad, right or wrong. It just means that's how your personality style is. I know people that never look at their bank account. They just spend based on their money story and their style. I know other people that look obsessively daily and they save every penny because they're worried for whatever reason based on their money story and style. And here's an example I like to give people, and we'll do this with you. Imagine, Cody, that there was money was a person.
Okay.
The idea of money, the representation of all the money in the world was in one person. And that person walked through the door right now and stood right here. What would your initial thought, feeling, or response be if money walked in and stood right in front of you?
Be stoked.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm picturing Elon Musk because I think
Yeah.
most of the money does
Yeah.
live there. Yeah. I think I'd be like, sweet. I get to, like, what's the deal? I want to know what's going on over there.
Okay. Cool.
I think that's my
You'd
reaction.
be excited. You'd be stoked. You'd be
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
You'd be open-minded, right?
Yeah.
I've asked this to so many different people. I asked this on Mark Manson's podcast. And you know Mark Manson,
Yeah,
the
I love
solar.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, money walks in the door. What's your first response? He goes, that guy's a douchebag. I was like, really? I go, tell me why. That's his initial response based on his whole life history and a money story. And this guy's a multi-millionaire and makes tons of money with his books and show and everything. But he goes, yeah, he's kind of a stuck-up douchebag. And I don't know if I'd really want him here. And I go, okay, just notice your response. I asked someone in their late 20s, you're at a restaurant, money walks in the door. What do you do? And they said, I would get out of my seat and go to the bar and hide. Then I would start gossiping about money behind its back like it's in the room. Then if it came up to me, I would act like I was its friend. Then I would use and abuse it when I needed money, and I would ghost it if it ever reached out to me. And I was like, that's a very descriptive response and seems very unhealthy. And they were like, yeah, it is. And that's how it shows up in their life, based on their money story and based on their money personality style. That's how money shows up for them. And it doesn't make it right or wrong, good or bad, but is that relationship with money supporting you? With you, it sounds like, man, I'd be stoked if money walked in right here. I'd be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Let's be friends. That's what it sounds like for you.
Yeah.
You'd be more like free, flowing, open. You know, I talked to someone else and they said, if money walked in the room, I'd give it a big hug and say, come, sit down, let's chat. It's just like, it doesn't make it good or bad, right or wrong. It's just, is your relationship supporting you in your daily actions around money, in your career, in your business, how you make decisions based on your relationship with it? And when people can start to reflect, I give a ton of exercises in the book on reflecting on your money story to see why you have this money personality style now and to see what your personal relationship with money is, just to assess and see, is this serving me in my life? Is it bringing me more joy or more pain? Yeah. And that's it. This is not about how to be a mega millionaire or billionaire, because that's the key to life.
Yeah.
This is about, can you live a rich, abundant life inside of you? When you do, it really doesn't matter how much money you do or don't have. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million or 20 million. It's like you feel good with you no matter what externally is happening. Then the money is just an additional bonus. It's like, wow, I can do cool things with this. I can help more people. I can give more. I can buy a home. I can do stuff. But you're not living your life based on external validation. It's about internal feelings.
I love doing stuff. I think actually, you know what would be really cool? I would be so curious what would happen, Louis, if you're listening right now. I want you to play a little game with us, and we'll see if anybody will do it.
Yeah.
I want you to tag us in an Instagram story where you describe what your money style is
Yes.
and what your money story is live. Like, I want to know what the story, and just tag Louis and I.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious to hear what people's immediate reaction is when they see money walk in the door.
That's it. Yeah. And your money story and your money style equals your strategy, how you show up with money in your life today.
Okay, wait. So I want to back up. So first you've got your money story, which is like, if money walked in the door, how would you react?
Well, your money story is more of like all of the memories and wounds that you have around money. It could be good things. It could be negative things that you remember growing up. That is like, when I grew up, my dad and mom said, like, money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
And they were stingy and they didn't give me an allowance. And I had to work hard for my money. And it was all about hard work or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or it could have been like, man, my parents taught me that money comes freely to me when you add value.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to just be a value-driven individual. And I learned that money flows abundantly and it doesn't like consume me. You know, whatever your personality or your story is around money.
And you write down.
You write
your
those
story,
down. What are
Louis?
those memories? What are those memories that you can think of? What are the painful ones, the good ones? Mix it all together. That's your story. Write those down. Then think about your money personality style. How do you spend money? How do you save money? Do you invest your money or do you just put it in a savings account? Do you not know what your money is because you got so much debt that you're afraid and ashamed to look at it? You know, a lot of people are just like, when I had credit card debt, I didn't want to look at it. So I was like ashamed of it. I was like, I just want this to go away. And so I had to really start taking a look at things differently and say, oh, why am I avoiding money? Why am I avoidant of this? I was afraid of it. So I was strategically doing things in life based on my style and my story. And this whole, if money was a person and it walked in the room, that's more just to see what your relationship with money is. If it was a person, because I believe money is it's an intimate emotional thing. Most people have an emotional reaction with money. And emotions come from human beings. And so if you have an emotional reaction to something, imagine if it was a person. When you receive money, are you grateful and appreciative of the money you receive? Or are you like, gosh, stressed out, anxious, and just like frustrated with it? And imagine if you were always frustrated with a person in your life, how do you think they would feel? They wouldn't enjoy it. Imagine if you were never appreciative of them. You would never express gratitude towards them, especially an intimate partner. They'd probably leave you after a period of time. Or the relationship would not work. And if you thought of money when it came and when it left as an intimate relationship, and you said, it's weird as it may sound, money comes to me, and if you said, thank you so much for being with me, where would you like to go? What do you want to do? It's weird thinking of it as a person.
I'm
It's
kind
a
of
dollar.
into it.
If you're $1, $100,000, $1 million comes in your bank account, and you just say, thank you, money, for being here, where do you want to go? Do you want me to give you away today? Do you want me to use part of you to buy something for myself? Do you want me to invest in you and put you in somewhere? Do you want to go into the stock market? Do you want me to put you in real estate? Should I hire someone and help them in their life and their dreams with your money today? Where do you want to go? And almost asking it, role playing, as weird as this sounds, I feel like you'll have a better relationship with money when you invest and appreciate the money that comes to you.
You know what's weird is it is woo-woo, but I think that if you don't do things like this, you can have all the tactics in the world and you will still be broke. And, you know, what's fascinating, how did you come up with this?
studying, asking, 12 years of research, asking all the wealthy people in the world that I knew.
And all your notebooks while
and
you read
all the
podcast.
therapists that I've interviewed and all the healing work I've done on intimacy and relationships. And I realized from some of my biggest episodes around money, and I just would ask people, what's your biggest challenge with money? What's your biggest fear? What's holding you back? What's blocking you? What's your limiting beliefs? And it always came back to this relationship with money. And I know this because I had a bad relationship with it for a long time. And it took years to kind of heal and learn these things and figure out, how can I feel emotionally free with money? Because I don't want money to have power over me.
Yeah.
And even a year and a half ago, I thought I was free with money, and something triggered me. Something hit the emotional, psychological wound of stealing my money. And it made me furious. And I realized it still has power over me.
Yeah.
I'm still not free with money emotionally. And this relationship of me and money is not good still. Maybe in certain areas, but not every area. And I'm sure there's more levels for this. It's not like I've mastered this. This is about me exploring how to set myself emotionally free and have tools that if I ever go back into pain, how do I create freedom quicker?
That's so
And
good.
again, I just know so many people that I'd ask questions to about what are their struggles around money? What are their fears, their concerns, their insecurities? People are living in fear around money. And that fear is blocking their abundance. It's blocking their ability to earn more and feel free with the money they're earning.
Yeah, and even to learn about how to make money, because I think a lot of the reasons I go straight to tactics, because apparently I'm buddies with money. I don't know why, but
Yeah,
I like it.
You walked in, you're like, hey, let's hang out.
Sup, what you got? But that's why I want to go to tactics immediately, because I'm like, oh, tell me. But
most people can't even go there because they don't have a relationship with it.
They cannot.
Toxic. Their whole relationship is broken.
100%.
So how are you going to do tactics if you can't even be in a room with money?
Yeah, 100%.
If you got an intimate partner in front of you and you don't feel emotionally safe to have an open, vulnerable conversation as a tactic, you've got to do the healing work on you first before you can actually look someone in the eyes and say, hey, you hurt me. Hey, this upset me. I want to talk about it calmly, consciously. Instead of, you hurt me. It's like when you are so reactive or fearful and wounded, you respond based out of a wound, not out of wisdom, not out of like conscious communication, not out of clarity. It doesn't mean everything's going to be comfortable in your life. These are about, you're going to have uncomfortable conversations. But how can you have those uncomfortable conversations like you do from a place of, when someone says that we need to talk, you try to lean into it right away. It doesn't mean it's easy, but you consciously lean in and say, what can we do to make this better?
100%.
You don't avoid it.
No.
You don't run from it. You do the uncomfortable thing, but you try to mend it faster.
Yeah. But it's a great point, because what would be sweet? I don't know. You don't have this in the book, I don't think, but like, I would love a quiz on personality types with money.
Oh, I've got a whole chapter with a quiz.
No, but you don't have where you can go and click and say you're
quiz.
this on your website?
Yes.
What's the website?
Well, I mean, it's in the book and I've got the code in here. I have to find the actual link
so you
for
gotta,
you.
you
MakeMoneyEasyBook.com
Okay, perfect.
is the website, but there's a whole
So you
chapter
buy the book.
with a quiz you can take here.
And is there
and
an
it tells you your
avatar?
personality style. Yes.
Okay, so what are you?
Well, I'll tell you this right now. Let me find this page so I can tell the exact process of
Tell me
this.
when you're ready, because and I'll tell a story in the meantime. So I remember I was speaking at a women's event.
Yes.
And it was a finance women's event with a bunch of like kind of pretty wealthy women, all in leadership roles. And this is when I realized that a book like yours was really needed, but I had no answers to this question then.
Yep.
I was going to go on and speak about how to do asset investing at like a high level, alternative investing, blah, blah, blah. But first they had this woo-woo chick in Austin come on and talk
Who
about.
was it? Do you remember?
I don't. I remember a lot of feathers and like
hat,
there were
big hat.
beads. There was
Yeah.
a hat, and I was judgy. I was immediately judgy.
Yes.
And yet this woman came on and she blew my mind. She had us all close our eyes. She
And?
said, in the audience, everybody close your eyes. And I want you to visualize money. And I want your body to become a visual representation of your feeling of money.
I love it.
And so immediately,
Very woo.
yeah, very woo. And I'm like opening one eye slightly, but my hands like went up. I was like, money, I want it. I like it. And I kind of thought that would be everybody. And she said, now freeze, keep your eyes closed. Now open your eyes. And she had us look around.
And how many people had their hands up?
oh, maybe like me and one other chick.
Wow.
And almost everybody else was, some of them might have been like this or like this or like this. And that's when I realized, whoa, in this area, I'm messed up in many, many, many areas. But in this one, this is such a wound for people. And if we don't heal the wound, then we definitely cannot apply, a new foundation. We can't apply growth. We can't extend.
Exactly. It's got to heal the wound. And you were like free. You were like, I'm ready,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I still freak out about money sometimes.
But most people are blocked. You have a different thing, you know.
Which is I want too much of it. This is what you did to me on your podcast.
You have a different thing where it's like, I was like, what's enough? And you're like, I don't know. Like, you're like, there is not enough. You're like, I need it all. And it's not a right or wrong, good or bad conversation, but it's just why?
Yeah.
It doesn't make it wrong. Where is that coming from? That's it. And then you held back the tears. You're like, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to close down right now. I was like, okay, cool.
You did. You're like, what would it look like if you were enough? And I was like, shut up, Lewis.
Like, next topic.
Yeah, stop trying to make me emotional.
And it doesn't mean you don't have to like reach your ultimate potential and go for what you want to go for. I'm not saying that, but where is it coming from? And I don't know if you've reflected on that at all, but it's like, I think your money, I can't remember what was enough for you. You're like, I want 100 million. No, I want $1 billion or something. I was like,
just kept going bigger.
Why? And is your number still $1 billion or is it bigger now?
Well, I think some of the stuff that's helped me lately, we've talked about this, is that I want a family and I want.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah. And I have to make space for that. And there's got to be another priority.
Trad wife.
Yeah, I want to be a trad wife.
Trad wife.
You know this.
Hashtag trad wife life.
Oh my God, I want to be in sundresses, just prancing around like a happy little mother.
Cabin, with the little.
That's why I judged the chick. I wanted the hat and the beads. Full circle,
did.
probably.
You wanted to feel emotionally free.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's hard to be going for $1 billion business brand and be in your heart all day.
Yeah.
And be like emotionally open and have flexibility and space for like chaos with kids running around and just being open to like cleaning diapers and like feeding and just listening to your kids like gobbledygook or whatever when they're kids.
Yeah.
Like you have to create that emotional space, that emotional freedom in order to be present. And if you're always in your head of like, we got to grow and build, you don't have space for that.
Yeah. And
it's not a good or bad, right or wrong thing. It's like, what do you want? What's your vision?
Yeah, and what's your season?
And $1 billion, what is that going to do for you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, buy you more planes than $100 million? Like, I don't know.
Probably
like, cool.
Not a big difference between.
And then what? You're going to give a lot of it away or buy more sports teams or invest in cool stuff. But it's like, for what? To manage more problems?
Yep, that's very true.
And at the end of the day, what is it that you want to feel? What is $1 billion going to make you feel when you hit that?
Higher level, higher devils.
And so for me, it's like what I'm hearing your heart say, and maybe it's the season of life or I don't know, clock ticking or whatever it might be, or you just feel like, okay, I also want this, that there's some richness and joy to that as well. That's probably more than $1 billion will ever give you.
Yeah. I've definitely felt it more. I mean, for young people that really want money, I love that pursuit. I think there's like a level of happiness that comes with being able to cover your basic needs. But man, I think you and I have both felt this. The happiest source of joy in my life is my husband.
Exactly.
And he's also the biggest pain in my ass sometimes, but mostly joy.
Yeah.
But I want to get to this style quiz.
Yeah, there's 4 different. Yeah. Page 43 of my book. There's a whole quiz that you'll go through and then add up your number or whatever. But there's these different styles that each person has, and one is called the director. But there's also a shadow style.
Which one do you think I am?
There's the director, the energizer, the shepherd, and the analyzer. You're probably a director. This is the benefits of a director are a self-starter, focused on results, favors facts over feelings, which is all about you. You don't have feelings. No, I'm just teasing.
None.
You're not intimidated by challenges. You're willing to make tough decisions. You're cool under pressure, and you have a strong action bias. Mm-hmm. But there are...
Then what's the shadow?
Well, the shadow is the interesting part. The director becomes the dictator.
Oh,
and so the weakness is they don't value input, doesn't value input. They avoid helpful routines and details sometimes. They struggle to think of others, mostly thinking about your needs. Overcommit self and others. to too many things, sacrifices healthy practices, doesn't want to wait, very impatient, expresses discontent, or appears uncaring. So it might be you.
Check,
but
check.
Yeah, I mean, but that's if you go in like the dark side of your personality style.
But that's amazing. So they should read the book, then take your personality style. Because then
Yes.
when and listen, I kind of am a believer, and I'm curious what you think. I think we can change, but not a lot. And so it's
Yeah.
like, I'll probably always have a little bit of the dictator. I'll probably have a little bit of the director, but then it's just making sure you lead more from the light than the dark.
And
right?
the more you heal, the more you lean into the light side.
Right.
And that's the key. Like you're always going to have that style, but how can you have a healthier version of that style?
Right.
And not the dark version of that style. When I was, 10, 12 years ago, I just was down, like I was making all this money, but my ego was coming out. And I was so wounded in so many places that it was like aggressive everywhere with everyone in certain areas. And I was like, what is wrong with me? It's like this money was revealing more of who I was, of the dark side inside of me. Sure, it showed the light side as well. But when I was triggered emotionally, that came out even bigger. And money doesn't heal who you are, it reveals who you are. And until you learn to heal, then it's just going to reveal the better part of you.
So if you had to think about the steps that you would take to get money, it sounds like one of the first ones is going through these certain levels.
Yes.
And then what do you do next? So now you've got your style. Now you've
Yes.
got your story. Now you've got your personality.
Yes.
What do you do next?
So the first part is really understanding and having awareness about you. That's what it is. It's like reflecting on my story, reflecting on my style, getting my personality style so I understand what that is. And then reflecting on my whole strategy around money my entire life to where I am today. And once I have a kind of a blueprint around what that is, then there are 7 habits for creating financial freedom. And once we start to heal and mend and take ourselves to money therapy, then we can create financial success from a healthier place. Not from a place of, I need to prove myself, I'm not enough, I need more to feel good about me, or this will bring me happiness. So once we get to that kind of foundation first, then there's 7 habits. The first one is the mindset habit. And this is what I think a lot of people think, when I have money, then I'll give, then I'll be more generous. But the wealthiest people in the world start with generosity, even when they don't have a lot to give. I'm sure you've heard the Tony Robbins story about when he had like $10 in his pocket one day. He was like going broke. He had no money. He didn't know where the money was going to come in. And he was at a restaurant. He took himself to like his final dinner. He was like, all right, I'm broke after this dinner. And he found a young boy who was with his mother. And he went up to the young boy and said, you're paying for your mother and here's the money. And he gave his last like $5, $10 away for this dinner. And he said he leapt out of the restaurant. Like the feeling of giving it, even though it was his last dollars, made him feel so alive. The generosity of giving a few dollars for this act of generosity. And he said, he went home and someone called him and who owed him money and sent him the money that day, and more money started coming in. Now that might've been a synchronicity. Who knows? But it was more about the feeling of generosity. And again, if you don't have money, you don't have to give it.
Yep.
But what can you give initially? Again, when I was broke, I reached out to thousands of people literally on LinkedIn in 2007, 8, and 9, and built relationships with people by asking them questions. That curiosity, people don't want you to ask them for advice. But they love talking about their story of how they overcame challenges to achieving their success. You're going to get the same answers either way. But you're giving to someone when you say, can you tell me how you overcame this season of life? It seems fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Versus, can you give me advice on how to get a job?
Yeah.
No one wants to give their time to someone else, but they will give of their storytelling about how they overcame something. And they'll give you hours of their time.
It's so true.
It's just a simple switch. How many people, Cody, to say, I love to, get 5 minutes of your time to pick your brain. It's like, you don't have time. You're busy. You can't give someone freely of this time that you don't even know. But maybe if someone wrote you a nice email and was just like, man, I really love like the business you did back like 7 years ago. And they really researched and said, they found something you did. They're like, that was so cool. And how you jump from here to here. I would love to hear that story if you have a few minutes to share it. Maybe you won't have the time, but you're more likely to have the time if it's the right timing for you to say, yeah, I'm happy to email you or jump on a call, or maybe we can meet in the future. Like, you're more open to it. Anyways, the mindset habit is about being generous. And if you don't have money.
I want to double tap on that for
Yes.
a second, because one of my favorite quotes from one of my smartest mentors, Donald Park, was, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. And I love that, because it's basically another level to what you're saying, which is, especially when you start, asking people to invest in your stuff, asking for a raise, asking for whatever. We think the direct path is the best, which is, I would like a raise, or I would like you to invest in this, or I would like you to X with money. But if instead you said, I saw, Louis, that at this point in your life, you did this X thing. How did you end up breaking up with money then? What was that like? Or if you said to your boss, hey, if one day I wanted to get a raise,
What would it take?
What would it take? What would that look like? What are you actually doing? You're asking for a raise.
Exactly.
But you're asking for advice, which feels much cleaner.
Yes.
So I think that's really, really powerful. And if you can switch that up, I love it.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing tactically on that is, like, what does that look like for you daily?
Back then, it was me emailing people on LinkedIn constantly.
And it was just like one question. Like,
I tried to find 3 points of connection within every message.
mm-hmm.
In the first line, I would find something that we had in common somehow. Even if it was, I see we're both from like the same city. I would just, whatever I could find, I would try to add that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second line, I would talk about something where I'm really inspired by what they've done. I really like what you created here at Sports Illustrated. I was back in the sports world early on, and how you've built this brand. So I was just emailing CEOs. And then I was always trying to find another point of like connection within the third line, which is, finding, it was usually on LinkedIn, it was who you have in common. Oh, I see we're both connected to so-and-so as our second degree connection. And I was just chatting with them last week about you, and they really love what you helped them with. So I'd always find a connecting person that we had in common. I'd find some couple points of interest that we had in common as well. And then I'd try to acknowledge them for what they've created. And then I'd say, I'd love to learn more about how you did this. And when I originally started doing this, I was just asking people for advice and no one replied. Then I was like, oh, you got to kind of like butter people up a little bit and be more intentional about it and do some research and be like more thoughtful about them, not about what I need. And the more I did that, I just repeated it and everyone started replying to me. And then people were taking me out to lunch and paying for me to learn from them when I was like broke. It's like, oh, there's something to this. And that's actually what inspired me to launch the School of Greatness. I was having all these fascinating conversations with people way more successful than me. And I was like, if people could only hear these conversations, they would be able to build a business like I've just done in the last few years. I was like, why don't I just start recording these things and put them out there? And that's essentially why School of Greatness was born.
That's wild. I've listened to you for years, as you know. But it is, even now, like, as successful as maybe somebody, might think you or I are, there are dark, dark days and hard days that I put on School of Greatness, or I put on Founders Podcast, or I put on one of our other friends' podcasts. And I just listen, like, I'm feeling a little lost. And so I want to pick up, I want to steal just a little bit of that, like, energy, that contagion, like you talked about.
Yes.
And so I think that's beautiful. Yeah. So it's this generosity and constant reach out.
And gratitude.
Yeah.
When you're broke, you're not grateful by default.
Yeah.
You're frustrated. You're resentful of the government. You're resentful of who's in, which political party's in power and what they're not giving you. You're frustrated that they took away this grant or these loans or this thing. You're like, I'm not getting what I want and they're not taking care of me. Or there's some resentment or frustration, typically, not by everyone. So you've got to learn to shift it and say, what am I grateful for? And living in gratitude and generosity. That's the first principle. Most people say, I'll be grateful, I'll be generous when I have more money.
Yeah.
You need to make that the first principle, the first tactic, and the first feeling, and meshing them together. How can I be a giver? And what that looks like for me now is when I see someone like you doing so well, I reach out to you. I'll send a voice note, a video message, a text, and say, God, this is amazing what you're doing. Keep crushing it. If I can help with anything, let me know. And if you're looking for advice on this in the future, I got your back. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah.
Or it could be, hey, just thinking about you lately, what's the biggest challenge you're faced with right now in your business? And just doing that once every few months, or what's the biggest challenge you're having in life with it right now with your friends? Doing that once every few months with your top 20 connections and just being top of mind. And then when they tell you their biggest challenge, solve it as fast as you can, because it's usually a pain they've had for months.
Yeah.
And when you solve their problem, and when you also connect them with one person who is the solution, you're now creating, you're not just helping one person, you're actually helping two people expand. And then you become the champion of their relationship. Mm. They always talk about, man, so grateful for Lewis for connecting us. I have two buddies of mine that both, I did this like 4 years ago with two friends of mine. And one guy was like, I'm trying to figure out social media. Can you help me, like, what you do? And I was like, it's not something I do for someone. I can give you strategy, but I know a guy if you're looking for someone to help you run this. And I reached out to the guy and said, hey, this person's looking for this. Can you help him? He said, yes. I connect them. Literally a year and a half later, they send me a car to my apartment building because they made like $10 million together. Over this next like couple of years, maybe it was 2 or 2.5 years. They do $10 million together, and they think of me as the champion of their wealth, of their abundance, of their success. You know, they did all the work, but I was the champion that connected them. I thought about both of them, how they could both succeed. And they sent me a car as a gift, as a thank you. And it's just when you can do that for someone, you're expanding people's opportunities for success and growth. And you become the champion. They always want to give back. Most, if they're good people, they're going to want to give back. And just reach out to your friends, your family, say, what's your biggest challenge right now? How can I help? And try to solve it. Like, call someone right then and say, I got the person, let me three-way you in now. Like, do it now. And then I learned this by hosting LinkedIn networking events in 2008, 2009. I did 20 events around the country using LinkedIn as the platform to market these LinkedIn networking events. Yeah. And the economy was crashing, people were struggling. This is how I got started. And every person that walked in the door, I'd say, what's your name? Put a name tag on them. And I'd say, what's your business and what's your biggest challenge? And then 10 people later, I'd say, what's your name? What's your business? What's your biggest challenge? And I'd be like, oh, someone was a graphic designer and someone needs graphic design services. I would take this person and walk them to them and say, connect, do your deal now. And I would do that for everyone that would come to the events. And they were all succeeding, sending me emails and letters and referrals and commissions for just connecting the dots.
Well, you did that for me with Rory, remember, in the book. And so because of that, I learned all about the inside of books and never would have done it. So it's really good. And I feel like the only way you can kill this practice of gratitude is by expecting something in return, right?
Yes.
So if you do this, you can't get mad when they never send you the car.
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like the key. All right. We've got point one.
Yes.
Let's do 2 and 3. Okay. And then we're going to make them read your book for the others.
The second one is the mapping habit. And this is really kind of creating a map and almost like a game plan for how much money you want to make. This is Codie Sanchez like tactics. I want to make a billionaire. Okay. So it's why do we want to be a billionaire? What's the process for getting there? And how am I going to get there? And what's this next season of life, these next 3 to 6 months that I'm going to start working towards this? What's the map? What's the game plan? Creating micro goals, bigger goals, and starting to strategize how to get there. When I was broke on my sister's couch, I was like, I just want more money. And then I was like, okay, a mentor was like, you got to get clear. Yep. Just in the next 3 months, how much do you want to make? You're broke. You're not going to be a millionaire in a year. Maybe, but it's like, just plan for 3 months. What do you want? I was like, I want $5,000. And he goes, how do you want to make it? Tell me if you could do it doing anything. I go, I want to make it giving a speech. I want to speak and get paid $5,000. And at the time I was learning public speaking at Toastmasters. So I was developing the skill, but I was not that good yet. But he said, okay, are you willing to go all in on this? Because you're so far away from $5,000 at this point, broke on my sister's couch. And I was like, I'm willing to go all in. He goes, put a date by when you want to accomplish this by. I want you to sign it and certify it, make a certification and put it on your wall and look at it every day and then take an action every single day to go make that $5,000. And the first week may just be, I'm going to go give 3 speeches for free and get reps. I'm going to get coaching. I'm going to get feedback. Then I'm going to charge, $5 for like a ticket to a workshop. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to keep giving free, like whatever it is, map out the game plan to make that $5,000. Within 3 months, I made $5,000 on one speech. And I made money along the way, a little bit here and there, by taking the action on the mapping habit. So get clear on your goal. If yours is $1 billion, by when?
Yep.
What's the strategy? What's the yearly strategy? How are you going to break it down seasonally? Who are the people you need to hire? It's creating that game plan and map, and then signing a certificate to yourself from you and dating it and framing it and saying, this is going to happen. And it doesn't matter actually if it happens or not, but it's creating a clear intention, going back to that energetic feeling of this is happening. What do I need to do to make it happen? And just getting clear. The third one is the monetizing habit. This is something that when I was, again, broke on my sister's couch, I didn't know how to monetize anything because I didn't understand money. I didn't have a college degree yet, and I didn't know who would give me money. So I had to learn what are these intangibles, these hidden assets that I could monetize because I didn't have any hard skills that were monetizable. And these are some of the things I'm talking about, learning how to build relationships, connecting people, overcoming fears, overcoming self-doubt, setting clear goals, accomplishing them. It was just like having passion and energy, asking dumb questions to smart people. I didn't think these were skills, but who would have thought asking dumb questions to millionaires for years would have helped me build a business, would have turned into a 12-year podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I never thought I could make money asking dumb questions, and that's what I do every day. But it's learning about what are these hidden skills, these hidden assets that you don't think you have, starting to develop those and bring those out. And I talk about how to find and monetize your uniqueness that can really bring that out and bring abundance into your life. I'm telling you, I didn't think I could do any of this. I was so dumb. I was so insecure. I had no skills. I almost flunked out of college and almost flunked out of high school. And I needed tutors every year. And I was in special needs classes. So I didn't have the skill set to go get a job or do these things. But I learned how to monetize my inner world and my inner skills for external financial success. And you can too.
It's so good. Yeah, I wonder if in the future there'll be like a little money gym, sort of like there's a physical gym, like, because you can see thinking about these ideas, it is therapy, but it's a different type.
It is.
If our international language right now is money,
Yep.
and it is the one thing that we all spend most of our life in pursuit of besides sleeping, but yet we spend so little time learning about it.
Yes.
We spend so little time diagnosing it, and then we spend so little time figuring out our decision making on it or coming up with daily habits on it. So no wonder we're broke. 47% of Americans die broke. And why? Because we don't know how to habituate it. We don't know how to diagnose it.
Yeah.
And then we don't know how to make decisions on it.
I mean, unless you're Bill Perkins and you want to die broke,
Exactly.
die with zero. But doesn't mean you die. You lived rich, but you end with zero.
Believe me, he's doing just fine. That guy,
but most people live with zero and die with zero.
That's right.
He lives abundantly, but he's planning to give it all away at the end of his life, I guess, which is a different strategy. So, yeah, the goal is to really figure out what your inner currency is and how to maximize that and monetize your inner currency.
What's been the coolest thing that's happened since you've put out the book? Have a bunch of people responded about it yet?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's more of like, going on tour was really cool to just see people and share these concepts and get people opening up. For me, and again, this is a little woo-woo, but it's getting people to open their heart to feel like they are worthy of their life. It's feeling I am worthy of the pursuit that I'm creating, whether I'm making tons of money, a little money, some money, no money, but reminding people of their worthiness. Because when I believe people are more self-confident, more self-worthy, they create and attract opportunities. You become wealthier financially. A person who lacks confidence and self-worth is usually going to sabotage good things when they come to them. And so you might be able to make something, but then you're like, I'm guilty and ashamed that I have this. It's learning to step into your power and your worth, not in an egotistic way, but just in a conscious, loving way, and saying, how can I be a giver? How can I be grateful for all that I've received? And how can I be generous in life? And I think that's a worthy life.
Yeah. But, also a lot of the woo-woo stuff, people get mad about it with money because it's not tactical.
Yeah.
This is very tactical,
Yeah.
which is why I think it's pretty rare, actually. I mean, I've read just about every book I could find on money because I do find it fascinating. But when people ask me, what are the steps to become rich when you have no money? My answer is typically
Tactics.
You got to go obsess on your skill set and earn more.
Yes.
And you got to obsess on learning more. That's like
100%.
step 1 and 2.
And I did that.
But not without this.
But I did that and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I made money
You
and it
force
solved
function.
money problems, but all my relationships were broken.
Yeah.
And I was emotionally broken.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I just need to be bigger and better and be number one always. And if I drop down anywhere and I make less money one year than the next year, then I'm going to be stressed out and frustrated and I'm going to be angrier and I need to go make more and work harder. And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
It was exhausting. And it doesn't mean it wasn't fun at times. It's nicer to have money than to not have money. I don't want to go back on my sister's couch. And that fear of not wanting to go back made me like hold on to it more, as opposed to being more relaxed and flowing and allowing it to come and go and appreciating when it's here and saying, thank you for being here. And I got to spend you here. Great. I'm excited for that as well. And it was that journey of healing and understanding, oh, what's my money wiring? Why am I this way? Oh, let me just reflect on some of these stories and like, oh, I guess that's why my nervous system, I react around money in these situations naturally, because that's what happened to me growing up. So let me start to mend those things so that I can actually feel rich and be rich.
Is there a difference between men and women that you've seen and the way they think about money writ large?
Probably, but I'm not sure how to explain it right now. And I'm also, my wife is really smart when it comes to a lot of things, but she studied money for most of her life and she had a healthy relationship with it when she was younger. Like she would tell me stories of like they grew up in, poor Mexico, in the south of Mexico. They didn't have a lot of money growing up, but her dad, whenever they would have money, he'd have like her and her siblings on the bed, like throwing money in the air, jumping and saying, money is good. Money is fun. Like we are happy and money, we love money and money loves us. These are like things that she would say. And her dad would create these environments, even though he didn't have a lot of money. But it was creating like an emotional connection with money, that money is a good thing. People with money aren't evil. People with money aren't bad. Maybe some people are, but it doesn't mean you have to be. And it can feel good with it. So she always had a healthy relationship with it. She started making money when she was younger. She was in her late teens. She was doing TV and movies. And she's like, she went to seminars. She went to like Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminars 20 years ago.
That's wild.
And she was like studying books and learning. And I think that mindset of like, I'm going to keep learning and I'm going to have a healthy relationship with it. And it doesn't have power over me. It's for her, I think that's rare in women because a lot of women I haven't met that do that. I think a lot of women have been, maybe it's shifted now in the girl boss era, but I think a lot of women maybe just haven't been as invested in learning and invested in investing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know Chris Powell. Do you know him? He was on Iced Coffee Hour recently. Okay. But I just had him on yesterday and he was like, I've been trying to get women for years to invest. And it's been like pulling teeth trying to get people to just invest $10 a month in the stock market. And so he's like, it's been so hard to get women to invest. And I'm not sure why that is, but maybe you see it differently with your community because you're attracting women who want to do what you do.
Well, I have found that, if you're a woman out there talking about money consistently, it's some people can perceive it as gauche or...
Gauche? What
like,
is this?
It's just like
Trad wife?
Exactly.
It's just another term that I don't know.
I wish. Like a little showy, not in good taste.
Yeah.
And I have found, what's interesting, actually, Louis? I can quantify this. In our group, at first, they wanted a separate group in our business buying community for the women. They wanted like a separate channel, basically, in our Slack. And we have these different channels about different types of deals and industries and sectors. And they were like, we want a women business buying thing. And my immediate reaction was, no.
Why?
No. Like, your vagina, my vagina have nothing to do with whether you can buy a business or not.
Exactly.
Totally unrelated. But then I talked to a few of them, and that made a few mad. And so they talked to me about it, and I can sometimes be brash. So I was like, well, let me hear you. Let's talk to me through this.
What'd they say?
That they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed about some of the questions that they
yeah,
had. They had
interesting.
shame about the size of the deals they had versus the other guys. They were scared about how they negotiated versus others.
And this is the thing. When we are living in fear, shame, or guilt around these things, we are limiting our power and our ability to make decisions. Or we have to like hide in different types of groups and say, I'm only going to talk to these people.
Yeah.
That means money or these deals or the flow of money has some type of power over you because you are ashamed to talk about it to other people.
Yeah.
This is not a right or wrong, good or bad conversation. This is is that supporting and serving your life? Do you feel free when you have to hide yourself and have conversations in limited groups versus with anyone?
Yep.
And that's why in the beginning of the conversation, I was saying, start having conversations with everyone around money. You don't have to reveal what's in your bank account day one, but start just, hey, what's your thoughts on money? What do you think about when money comes to you? Or do you ever think about investing? If so, what do you think about it? What's your process look like?
Yep.
Just having some general conversations and feeling more safe in those conversations with girlfriends, with guy friends, with colleagues, whatever it might be, so you are in power, not feeling like it has power over you.
It's just so necessary because with those women, what I eventually said was, instead of doing that, can I push you guys to have this conversation in the main group?
Yeah.
And I will lead it. I'll like lead it off. I'll tell some embarrassing
Yeah.
things about me first because you are self-limiting by going to this group because the average net worth of the woman in our group is lower than the men. You guys also are doing slightly smaller deals than the guys on average. So if you pull yourselves over here into a group of people that have less money, that do smaller deals, what are you replicating? Well, now you're in a group that's smaller when the
Yeah.
whole point of you being in here is for you to be in a group of other winners. And so we eventually sort of compromised on this idea. And I said, listen, if anybody's rude to you, if anything negative happens, like you ping me direct and I will make sure that I handle it. But can I please push you slightly to go bigger?
Yeah, and I'm all for people like, being in safe environments and having safe settings when they're talking about something that's vulnerable for you. I'm not saying you have to do this right away with billionaires because you're not going to know what they know.
Right.
But I think is also a process of, that's why it is important to read books or watch your show and get mentorship and be in these types of groups because it's going to expose you to feeling more comfortable over time. And I was uncomfortable within my first year of learning stuff. It still takes time, but I'm also